A woman named Honda Mako, a sales clerk at a home center, awakens with a start. She wonders if she is in a bed, but the distinct smell of grass fills her senses as she lies in a field. She sits up and glances at the vast, empty landscape of rolling hills. In the distance, two small figures cry out in alarm, realizing she has spotted them and shouting to run away. Mako's attention, however, is fixed on a peculiar detail: their ears. As a breeze sweeps across the plains, she tries to recall how she got here. She remembers coming home from work, looking forward to watching her recorded shows, but then falling asleep right at her doorway. The realization hits her with a gasp. Her mind whirls with possibilities. Is this heaven, or perhaps a dream? If it is a dream, she desperately hopes to wake up soon, as her Sunday morning shows are waiting for her. Her thoughts are interrupted as several glowing panels, filled with text, suddenly materialize in the air before her, causing her to cry out in surprise. She examines the interface, recognizing it as a status window akin to those in video games. It displays her name, stats like HP and MP, and titles such as DIY Master and Garden Master. She briefly wonders if she has died, but dismisses the thought, feeling quite alive. She mutters to herself, blaming her hellish overtime schedule for this bizarre predicament. Her attention shifts as the two small figures, who look like twins, approach and stare at her. She asks them where she is, explaining that she just appeared here. One of the boys asks if she remembers anything and who she is, mentioning they are near Daticus village. The other boy warns her to find her home quickly before storm arrives. When she admits she has no place to go, one of the boys offers for her to come with them. The other immediately shouts his brother's name in protest. As they argue, the sky darkens ominously and a low rumble echoes across the land. Deciding that safety comes first, Mako accepts the kind offer. The reddish-haired boy vehemently objects, arguing that they can't take a human they don't know to their home. His brother counters that it's too dangerous to leave her alone. Mako attempts to ease the tension by introducing herself. The reddish-haired boy reluctantly introduces himself as Maru and his brother as Mira. As the wind picks up, they lead her toward the small village. Looking at the quiet settlement, Mako keeps her thoughts to herself, but a realization dawns on her. The residents of this village likely hate humans. She and the boys arrive at a worn-out log cabin. As they step inside the rattling, creaky structure, Mako's concern is palpable. She silently wonders if the house can withstand the storm. She asks if the two of them live here alone, prompting a defensive retort from Mira, who assumes she's judging the state of their home. Mako quickly clarifies that she was merely thinking it looked quaint. A loud rumble of thunder shakes the fragile cabin. Maru explains that it has been just the two of them ever since their parents died in an accident. The house trembles again, and Mako voices her concern, asking if it will hold out. Mira tries to reassure her, stating proudly that their father built the house himself. Despite his words, the rattling of the house instills a sense of doom. Mira turns to his brother, urging him to stay strong. He admits that the villagers warned this would be a major storm, a fact that seems to weigh heavily on them both. Seeing their distress, Mako resolves to act, recalling the words of someone named Eiji. Heroes help each other. She announces that she'll need some supplies, specifically angle fixtures. Maru recognizes the item she describes as something similar to a wedge used in farming tools, and she confirms, though she notes that proper metal fixtures would be ideal. She then pulls out her own set of tools, thankfully still with her. After a moment of rummaging, she warns the boys of the noise to come. A series of loud, metallic clangs echo through the cabin as she works. Moments later, she holds up a newly fashioned metal bracket for them to see. As the house creaks under the strain of the wind, she explains that a single bracket won't suffice. They'll need many more. Mira confirms that the object she created is indeed one of the angle fixtures she mentioned. Suddenly, a familiar window materializes before her, announcing that her DIY Master title has unlocked a new skill, alchemy. She stares in disbelief, wondering if this power manifested simply because she handcrafted the metal piece. Her mind drifts to the fixtures sold in her old shop, larger, sturdier, and she realizes they will need a great many of them to secure the cabin. As she contemplates this, a brilliant light emanates from her hands. Dozens of perfectly formed metal fixtures suddenly appear out of thin air, clattering onto the wooden floor. Maru calls out her name in shock, while Mira, wide-eyed, asks if what he just saw was magic. Still stunned by the sudden manifestation, she begins to think through the next steps, murmuring that they will also need a large quantity of nails. As the thought forms, another ping of magic echoes, and a pile of nails materializes. She looks at the pile of newly created fixtures and nails, satisfied that this will be enough. Her satisfaction is short-lived, however, as a glance at her status window reveals a critical message: insufficient MP. She has completely exhausted her magical energy. With the necessary materials now in hand, she turns to Maru and Mira, a hammer raised in determination. She declares that they will make the lovely house their father built strong enough to beat the storm. Nearby, a group of wolf-like beastmen observe, remarking on the damage the twins' roof sustained the previous night. As the beastmen approach the cabin, their leader stops in shock. He exclaims that there isn't a single scratch on it, questioning what this could mean. Just then, Mako emerges from the doorway, stretching and commenting on how well she slept. The leader's eyes widen in disbelief at the sight of a human woman, and Mira instantly recognizes the danger, recalling that the beastmen of this village despise humans. He roars at the children, demanding to know why they brought a human into their house and the village. Maru and Mira rush to Mako's side as Maru tries to de-escalate the situation, insisting that Mako is a good person who used her magic to repair their home. The other beastmen clamor in disbelief, questioning why a human would use powerful magic for them, and concluding they must be deceived, as magic users are typically royalty. The leader furiously orders the twins to get away from her. Sensing the deep-seated animosity, Mako quietly wonders why they harbor such distrust. Mira explains the source of their pain. His mother and father were in a carriage accident, but because humans were given preferential medical care, his parents did not receive treatment in time and passed away. He states bitterly that humans look down on beastmen as if they were animals, and Mako's expression softens with empathy for his loss. She takes a moment to absorb the weight of his story. Mira then turns to face the assembled werewolves, acknowledging their shared history of being deceived by humans, which forced them to abandon their ancestral lands and seek refuge here. He then steps protectively in front of Mako, pleading with his kin. He insists that Mako is not a bad person and is different from the other humans they have known, urging them to trust her. Drawing on her professional experience, Mako steps forward with a calm and composed demeanor. She recalls that moments like these require the same poise as dealing with difficult customers. She explains to the werewolves that Maru and Mira gave her shelter from the storm, and she simply wished to repay that kindness by helping them. She spreads her hands openly, adding that she has no reason to deceive them and nowhere else to go. She implores them to judge her as an individual, apart from the troubled history between their peoples. The leader's expression remains one of intense anger, but before he can respond, a sudden rustling from the nearby trees draws their attention. From the woods, another werewolf bursts into the clearing, shouting frantically that they have trouble. Both Mako and the leader turn toward the commotion, startled by the sudden intrusion. He gasps, demanding to know what has happened. The scout struggles to catch his breath, while another werewolf behind the leader begins to waver, his body trembling with fear. The urgent warning materializes as a colossal white wolf, which stumbles into the clearing with a low growl. Its body trembles, and its footing is unsteady. Mako recoils in fear, identifying the beast, but Maru quickly corrects her, shouting that she is mistaken and that wolves and a beowulf are entirely different creatures. Before collapsing with a heavy thud, the great beast roars a single command: run away. As the great wolf lies motionless on the forest floor, letting out a faint whimper, Mira steps forward to explain its true nature. He reveals that this is no ordinary animal. The unique white-haired wolf is the guardian deity of this mountain. Its sacred duty, he explains, is to protect the sanctity of the entire area. In the forest rests the village's guardian deity, a massive white-haired wolf. Though it shares a lineage with the other wolves, it is said to lack their true strength. It is a protector against wild animals and attackers, and it lets out a low growl. Observing from a distance, Mako considers the wolf's role. The villagers revere him as an exceptional being who doesn't interfere in local matters, but signals danger from the mountains, allowing them to escape. As she watches him, she notices he looks somewhat unwell. Her concern growing, she approaches the ailing wolf, who seems to be in discomfort. Maru and Mira watch in shock as Mako kneels and places a hand on the great beast's side, thinking he looks as though he ate something he shouldn't have. She gently presses on his abdomen, confirming her suspicion. His stomach is swollen. She asks aloud if he ate something bad, but the wolf can only respond with a pained growl. Suddenly, a notification appears before her. She has unlocked the title Pet Master and the skill dialogue. The wolf snarls, demanding to know what she is, and Mako realizes with a start that they can now understand each other. She presses her question again, and he admits he ate a delicious-looking fruit he found on a tree. He groans that he is in pain and wonders if he is dying. Mako, feeling that the food hasn't been digested yet, knows she must act quickly to neutralize his condition before it worsens. Her only option is to make him vomit. As the wolf shakily asks what she is, Mako finds a long, sturdy stick. With newfound determination shining in her eyes, she declares that she will make him throw up everything that's inside his stomach. She thrusts the stick into his mouth, forcing his jaws open. The wolf roars, outraged at what this wretch is trying to do to a god. Ignoring his protests, Mako apologizes but pushes deeper, telling him to endure it just a little longer as he gags violently. The intervention works. The wolf heaves, expelling the poisonous contents of his stomach. He immediately feels a sense of relief, as if a great weight has been lifted. As Mako asks if he's feeling better, the wolf leader and his scout appear, staring in shock at the scene before them. The wolf leader is speechless. Mako dismisses her actions, saying it wasn't a big deal, and asks if she can draw water from the village well. The younger wolf scout offers to lend a hand. As they agree to clean up, a system notification appears. Mako has leveled up. Several days later, she felt a sense of contentment, dressed in new clothes the Beowulf residents had spared for her. By practicing with metal fittings and reinforcing the villagers' houses, she had been earning her food and learning about their livelihood. Maru called out that it was time to go, and she confirmed the materials she held would be enough for the day's work. Her first stop was to check on the great white wolf, whom Maru now called Inigo. She asked after his condition, and the wolf, whose name was Enchia, nuzzled her hand in response. The name was an ancient and honorable one, passed down through generations of divine beasts who, in ages past, held the power to protect the entire continent. This reverence for the wolf gods and their descendants continued into the present, with villagers bringing offerings in gratitude for the protection of their lands. Mako announced she had brought Intia's breakfast, and an elder beast man thanked her for the plentiful offering. She assured the proud wolf that his condition was much improved and that his only duty was to protect the mountain. The elder remarked that Mako was also helping by reinforcing the houses, telling Maru that they were like siblings now. Maru happily agreed, calling her his big sister. Mako felt the situation was beyond her control, but admitted to herself that she had grown fond of Maru, even if Mira remained skeptical. With that, they decided to head out for more supplies. As they walked, Mako's thoughts drifted back to her original world. Her reverie was broken by the elder, who voiced his concern that the village wouldn't be able to carry on if taxes were to rise again. Maru explained to her that the villagers sell meat, wild plants, fruit, and handicrafts at the town market to earn money, but the elder insisted they needed to trade more to survive. This prompted Mako to wonder what they could possibly sell at the market that would fetch a high price, observing that the village's current goods were not particularly valuable. Maru suggested that items like swords or gems would be the answer. Inspired by the idea, Mako attempted to use her alchemy, but the result was a useless, malformed lump of metal and ore. The twins looked on as Mira bluntly asked if it was supposed to be a sword, pointing out that they couldn't possibly sell it. Mako admitted with a sigh that she couldn't form a clear image of one. She explained her reasoning. Since she could clearly visualize the nails and metal fixtures she handled every day, she had hoped to create something valuable with alchemy to repay the kindness of the villagers. She realized the problem. She had never actually seen a sword in real life. Looking at her status, she saw her MP had taken a significant hit from the attempt and knew she couldn't afford to waste any more. Just then, as a small wolf pup gnawed on a piece of metal nearby, an idea struck her. Her mind flashed with a memory. While she couldn't picture a typical sword, she realized she had a perfect image of a katana. She recalled observing a swordsmith at work. The weight of the steel made from black sand, the sparks flying as it was forged, the polish that made the dull surface brilliant, and the intricate beauty of the finished blade's edge and crest. She held the newly forged blade, its steel shining brightly. It was a perfect replica of the katana, she remembered. Maru looked on in awe, but Mako quickly realized that such swords were unknown in this world. A check of her status confirmed her fears. Her MP had been completely depleted once more. Still, she resolved to finish the weapon by attaching the grip, believing a more complete item would fetch a better price. As she expertly wrapped the grip, she wondered about the katana's potential value. She surmised that her DIY master title must have come from her old job at a home center, and that this complex creation had drained her MP so severely. Mira then asked when the next market day was, reminding her of their poor sales last time. Mako confidently declared that if her MP recovered within the next 5 or 6 days, they would have just enough time to produce a large number of swords. On the day of the market, with her newly crafted swords bundled and ready, she stood beside the great white wolf. Maru and Mira were with them as she addressed the guardian beast, stating that they would be relying on his strength for the journey. The wolf scout, who would be guiding them, explained that the marketplace was a place of free trade but lacked any charm. The wolf leader confirmed this, expressing surprise that she wanted to go herself. Turning to the two boys, Mako asked if they were certain they wanted to accompany her. In a gesture of reassurance, the guardian wolf placed a heavy paw on her shoulder, promising to watch over her and the others. Mako then turned to Mira, correctly guessing that his hesitation was due to his concern for Maru. While Mira shyly denied it, Maru enthusiastically insisted they would need the extra help. The group set off on the path, the boys and the wolf beastmen walking alongside the great white guardian. The wolf leader, observing Mako's steady pace, commented on her composure, noting that the long walk was arduous even for seasoned men. He then pointed towards the horizon, announcing that their destination was in sight. Mako explained that her stamina was better than it appeared. A memory surfaced of her former life as Honda Mako, a home center sales clerk, and her daily routine of running 5 kilometers around her block. Upon reaching the town's stone walls, they were met by armored guards at the gate. One guard processed a merchant selling ores while another addressed their group, stating that an inspection could be skipped if they had already completed the market registration. Once inside, she gazed in wonder at the sprawling, bustling marketplace below. The wolf scout pointed towards a specific area, indicating where they were to set up their stall. He called out to her from their designated spot, urging her to join them. Mako, momentarily distracted by the sheer variety of goods on display, gathered their belongings, including a pouch of coins, before her attention settled on the bundle of swords she had crafted. She sits at their market stall, feeling a little anxious. Despite having sold one sword, business has completely stalled. She worries that no one will buy something they've never seen before, a sentiment the young beastmen beside her quietly affirm. Their quiet observation is shattered when a customer returns, brandishing one of the katanas. He shouts that the dull blade is useless and won't cut anything. Mako and the twins can only bow in apology, thanking him for his patronage despite the complaint. The man roars back, infuriated when Mako cheekily suggests the problem might be his lack of ability. As the wolf leader muses on the absurdity of a sword that can't cut, Mako offers a refund. The customer refuses, pointing to a clear nick in the blade and declaring that a damaged sword is useless. He explains that he was careless, so impressed by the magic emanating from the blade that he didn't check it properly. He tried to cut a simple apple, but the sword couldn't manage it. Then, a realization strikes him. Despite its inability to cut, the blade itself is completely intact. Mako looks on perplexed. The wolf leader decides they've done enough for one day. He tells Mako that it was an unfortunate outcome and that she should get some rest at the inn. Turning to the young twins, he thanks them for their help with a gentle pat on their heads. She sighs, reflecting that it can't be helped since this is her first time selling a sword. As she finishes packing their wares into a bag, she tells the wolf leader they are ready to head for the inn. Just then, a calm voice interrupts them, asking for a moment of their time. An elegantly dressed man with long, flowing hair stands before them, his hand extended in a placid gesture. He looks down at the group and asks if they are the ones selling swords that cannot cut. Mako and her companions can only stare up at him in confused silence. In the middle of the bustling market, an elegant nobleman holds up a simple, unadorned sword, examining it with a thoughtful expression. The surrounding crowd murmurs in confusion, wondering why such a blade would capture his attention in a place like this. He turns, apologizing for being so completely absorbed in the object. The wolf leader watches him intently as the man introduces himself as Iksa, a researcher who conducts magic research. Mako, observing from short distance, finds the intense reactions of the crowd around her peculiar. To prove his identity, he gestures to the crest embroidered on his sleeve. Mako recognizes it immediately, the coat of arms of the neighboring kingdom, Groaga. She and the wolf leader look on with dawning understanding. The wolf leader explains to her that the crest signifies that the researcher receives orders directly from the royal family. Mortified by her lack of courtesy, Mako bows deeply in apology, but Iksa reassures her, saying there is no need to be so formal. He turns his attention back to the sword, holding it up to the light. Truth be told, he begins, his expression serious. He recounts how he overheard an adventurer complaining about a sword that wouldn't cut, and, his curiosity piqued, followed him. Now, understanding, he gives the sword a test swing. A brilliant light erupts from the blade, stunning Mako, the wolf leader, and young Maru. With a powerful motion, Iksa swings the sword, unleashing a wave of energy that splits a massive boulder clean in two. He confirms his suspicion aloud. It is a magical object, a special artifact usable only by those with magical powers, capable of demonstrating dreadful force. He knew he wasn't mistaken. His eyes gleaming with scientific fervor, he rushes towards Mako and grasps her hands. He urgently demands to know where in the world she procured such a precious item, declaring that he must acquire these materials for his research. Mako is completely stunned. She thinks to herself that she had no idea the dull swords she created were hiding such a secret. She'd had a hunch about the quality of her creations after seeing how well her angle fixtures held up during the storm. But even so, she had been half-minded to just leave the sword behind. As she stammers, Maru pops up beside her, whispering for her to ask for a high price. Iksa, meanwhile, is lost in thought, realizing the slash was no accident and questioning if he now has the ability to control items he handles. He snaps back to the present and asks Mako how much she will accept in exchange for all the sword she possesses. She reeled at his offer of 50 gold coins for a single sword, initially thinking it was cheap. A moment's calculation reminded her that a normal katana was worth about 30 gold back in Japan, but she had no idea what the exchange rate was in this world. The wolf beastmen, however, were utterly stunned by the sum. One of them stepped forward and, with a formal ahem, presented a large, jingling pouch containing 150 gold coins, which landed on the counter with a heavy thud. He stared at the gleaming swords in his hands, scarcely believing his eyes. The gold was real and so shiny. As Mako and the children followed him inside, she realized the pouch he'd given her was a magical item itself, a four-dimensional pocket. His excitement palpable, he quickly asked if she had a listing of any other magical objects she might have in stock that he could look at. He then expressed his strong desire to become her regular customer, urging her to contact him immediately if she acquired any other interesting objects. His invitation extended to the next day, suggesting she visit his research lab so they could investigate the magical sword together. After he departed, Mako remarked that his visit felt like a passing storm. Later that evening, the entire group celebrated the sale with a grand feast. During the feast, the wolf leader marveled at their good fortune, noting how amazing it was to be in the good graces of such a magic researcher. Mako, however, felt a bit uncertain. They had barely exchanged introductions, and she wondered if he was truly as famous as the leader implied. The beastman confirmed their plans to leave the following morning. The wolf leader elaborated, explaining that the researcher, Iksa, had deep connections with the royalty. He was, in fact, a magic researcher appointed by the prince of the kingdom and backed by the monarchs themselves. Mako listened, absorbing the weight of this information, as Maru and Mira seemed dazed by the commotion. Her attention then shifted to Maru, who wasn't eating. The wolf leader also noticed, asking if the boy's stomach was still hurting since he wasn't yet accustomed to the local food. Mako gently asked him what was wrong, but Maru just chewed quietly, looking unwell. He claimed he was just a little tired. While the others continued their meal, Maru stared out at the moonlit town, clutching his stomach and quietly calling out a name, Intia. Sometime later, Mako and Mira arrived at a room, carrying a tray of food. Peeking inside, Mako saw that Maru had found his comfort. He was curled up and fast asleep against the great white wolf, Intia. A soft smile touched her lips as she noted they had both fallen asleep. She watches as Mira marvels at their lodgings, pointing out the huge bed and bath. Mako reflects that after such a lively and eventful day, it's no surprise that Maru is already fast asleep, mumbling contentedly. As she turns with a cup in hand, Mira calls out to her, his expression suddenly serious. He hesitates for a moment, gathering his thoughts before speaking. He finally speaks, expressing his gratitude. He explains that he never properly thanked her for reinforcing their house, and admits that without her intervention at the market earlier, they would have been unable to reach a conclusion. She begins to praise him in return, calling him kind, intelligent, and earnest. Flustered by the compliments, he shouts for her to stop making fun of him, but she kneels down to his level, insisting that she is being sincere. Taking his hands, she tells him that even though he acts grown and independent, he is still just a child. She acknowledges how difficult it must have been for him to protect both Maru and their home. He turns away, embarrassed, but she resolves to express her gratitude earnestly. Noting how cozy Maru and Intia look together, she asks Mira if he would like to sleep together as well. The boy reacts with shock, vehemently declaring that he will sleep alone. She worries internally that her attempt at kindness may have backfired. The next day, the wolf beastmen prepare to depart. The leader wishes Mako well, telling her to be careful. She, in turn, entrusts Maru and Mira with some money for necessities and asks them to help with the boxes, a task they eagerly accept. She waves as the group heads off, their cheerful goodbyes echoing down the street. Now on her own, she recalls the directions to Ix's laboratory, at the lodge in the heart of the city. With a determined expression, she sets her course. Arriving at a large, official-looking building, she is promptly stopped by a guard. He taps her on the shoulder, demanding she identify herself. Startled, she explains that she sold some magical items to Ixa the previous day and had come merely to offer her greetings. She is told to wait by the guard, but the doors behind them burst open. A blond man with an exuberant expression greets her loudly, declaring he's been waiting for her. He reveals he spent all night studying the magic sword she sold him, calling them magnificent. A woman in armor beside him chides him for his outburst, telling His Highness to compose himself and not make their guest uncomfortable. He ignores his companion's plea to refrain from such behavior in a commoner's marketplace, instead taking Mako's hand. He introduces himself formally as Ixa Raygun Groeda, the 7th prince of the Groeda kingdom and its chief magic researcher. Mako is stunned to learn she is speaking with a prince, while the armored woman observes her, thinking she seems rather cool-headed. As he leads them inside, Ixa mentions that she has likely heard the rumors about him, the indifferent prince who wastes his time on hobbies. Mako feels his intense gaze on her, and, feeling a bit of doubt, thinks she must find a way to fool him. They enter a vast storeroom, which Ixa explains is an institute for safekeeping and researching magical objects. He adds that since withdrawing from the royal succession race, he was entrusted with its management. His armored companion sternly advises him to reconsider making such remarks in front of citizens, stating they do not wish to invite unkind rumors. She points out that no one else would renounce their claim to the throne so easily, and that he's the only royal looking forward to another heir's ascension. Mako quietly agrees with her. Mako internally concludes that empty rumors only lead to unnecessary disturbances, a tactic of deception and stealth she deems highly effective. Her train of thought is interrupted by Ix's laughter at the exchange, which leaves Mako looking puzzled while his companion remains expressionless. He turns to his companion, whose name he reveals is Swallow, and remarks that he told her Mako was unlike other merchants. He then gestures toward an open doorway, inviting Mako to see what's inside. Inside a spacious office, Ixa sits behind a large desk. Addressing her by her full name, Honda Mako, he asks her to tell him about the sword she sold. He then adds that there are other things he wishes to hear about as well. He clarifies his request, asking for the details of how the swords came in her possession and, more pointedly, why she had set up her shop alongside the beastmen. Mako hesitates, looking uncertain how to respond. She cautiously asks if it is so strange for her to be friendly with the beastmen. Ixa considers this, replying that while he believes it would be ideal, he knows that the majority of beastmen harbor resentment towards humans. Swallow reflects on the prince's words. She understands his underlying point. For humans to regain the beastmen's favor, they must first return the rights they stole. However, she realizes the prince's true focus was on Mako's apparent relationship of mutual reliance with them. The guard remained watchful as Mako, facing the prince, concluded it would be wrong to lie to them. With a steady gaze, she declared that the swords were a product of her own magic. Her confession was met with skepticism. Prince Ixa, unmoved, asked if she truly expected them to believe such a claim. Mako could only stammer, caught off guard by his directness. The atmosphere in the room grew heavy, and Mako began to worry she was in trouble. Aixa continued his interrogation, explaining that in this kingdom, the power of magic is exclusive to select individuals from special lineages, royalty, or nobility. His eyes narrowed as he posed a pointed question. To which family did she belong? The implication left Mako in a state of shock. She internally grappled with the truth that she was a person from another world who happened to have the ability to use magic, but she doubted they would ever believe such a story. Before she could formulate a response, the doors flew open and an armored guard rushed in, shouting an urgent apology to His Highness and delivering a warning. The prince, unperturbed by the sudden intrusion, simply ordered the guard to report. The soldier explained that a band of robbers had attacked a shop, taking the staff and customers hostage. He specified that the hostages included 2 beastmen children, and that the perpetrators were demanding to negotiate directly with Prince Aixa. At the mention of beastmen kids, a terrible thought struck Mako. It couldn't be them. He calmly inquired about the robbers' demands. The guard relayed their terms. They wanted every single magic object in the possession of the prince's magic researcher. A group of armored guards stands before a large, stately building. One identifies it as a high-grade grocery shop, a merchant house run by the Viber family. Inside, the situation is dire. Mako rushes forward, her eyes wide with disbelief as she spots the great white wolf, Inchia, lying injured on the floor, a bloody wound marring its back. She kneels beside the beast, urgently asking if it is okay and how deep the wound is. Her thoughts immediately turn to the children, and she anxiously wonders where Mira and Maru are. Inchia groans, dismissing the wound as a mere graze and insisting that something else is far more important. The wolf's words reveal the grim truth. The robbers have taken hostages, barricading themselves inside the shop. Mira and Maru were among those inside. Outside, the wolf leader approaches Mako, his head bowed in apology. He explains that the 2 boys have been eager to buy some delicious fruit for her, expressing deep regret that the incident occurred on their watch. His apology does little to quell Intia's rising fury. The great wolf snarls, vowing to attack the robbers and rescue the children. The wolf leader warns it to stop, fearing a reckless charge would endanger everyone. Mako intervenes, placing a calming hand on Intia's snout and urging it to remain calm, trusting the knights on the scene to handle it. Intia huffs, conceding her point. As the wolf leader tells the beast not to cause a scene, Mako announces her intention to approach the authorities and dashes toward the cordon of knights. She taps a guard on the shoulder, trying to get his attention, but stops as she overhears a tense conversation. The man she addressed, a commander with an eye patch, is arguing with Aixa. The commander states that they can't reach a conclusion like this, accusing Aixa of not understanding the situation. Aixa sharply retorts that the commander is the one who misunderstands. He lays out the plan to infiltrate the store and confirms that the Viber family has already been notified about compensation for damages. He then confronts the commander directly, demanding to know if he is abandoning the hostages. The commander calmly assures the prince that the shop assistants and employees are being considered. However, he dismisses the other captives, noting that luckily, the only customers are 2 beastmen kids. Aixa is aghast, asking if that makes it acceptable. The commander simply states that in his kingdom, the knights have sworn an oath of integrity, implying a hierarchy of who is worth saving. The history of the Graga kingdom is deeply entwined with its royal treasures. Since ancient times, magical objects have been passed down through generations of kings, a legacy known as the king's possessions that no one has ever managed to snatch away. Swallow reflects on this history, knowing that handing over such treasures to a band of robbers is unacceptable. She had held a different image of the knights, believing their titles signified a commitment to justice and honor, and she was certain they would rescue Maru and Mira. He argues with the knight commander, pointing out that proceeding with his plan will guarantee the hostages' deaths. As Swallow watches, she understands that Aixa wants to protect these citizens, even though he is a foreigner. The commander, however, remains unmoved, declaring their lives a necessary sacrifice. Nearby, a man with a blindfold over his eyes declares that he won't let anyone cry on his watch. Swallow knows that an inexperienced person like her should leave matters to the authorities, but her fist clenches in frustration. Thinking of someone named Shodaro, she steels her resolve, deciding she must do something. Aixa presents a small, ornate case to the knight commander, suggesting they use its contents for a safe hostage exchange. The commander dismisses the offer curtly, asking if his orders were unclear. He reminds the prince that despite his royal status, he is in another's kingdom and must respect the king's authority. The knight commander's voice hardens. He tells Aixa not to forget he was only summoned to witness the harsh reality of the situation. He scoffs at the notion that humans and beastmen can live as equals, warning the prince to stop deluding himself with such naive ideals before turning to walk away. As the knight commander departs, a determined young woman appears beside Aixa and Swallow. She calls out to the prince, urging him to reconsider, insisting they cannot simply hand over all their magic objects. The commander stops and turns, looking at the newcomer with confusion, demanding to know who she is. Before he can get an answer, she lunges forward, shouting, and strikes him squarely in the jaw. The armored commander grunts and stumbles back from the force of the blow. Swallow cries out his title in shock as the woman catches her breath, thinking how unbelievable it is for a commander to give up on hostages. The woman then turns her intense gaze on Aixa. A fleeting memory of a conversation about her lack of physical fitness crosses her mind. Pushing it aside, she confronts him directly, demanding to know his true intentions. She asks if he agrees with the commander's callous plan, or if he genuinely wishes to save the hostages. He meets her gaze, his expression unwavering. In response to her challenge, he poses a question of his own. What if he were to say that he does, in fact, wish to save them? The woman with the headband has a sudden realization. If her alchemy skill can attribute values like strength to objects, then there must be a way to use her powers to impart that strength. Turning to Aixa, she proposes an idea, asking him to join forces with her. He looks at her, surprised. As he suspected, she is no ordinary person. Her ability is clearly a form of magic. Her expression hardens with resolve. She declares that she is coming from Maru and Mira, explaining that they need a simple and effective way to break the deadlock. For that, they need a strong weapon. Holding up a small, round object, she proclaims that with it, they can overpower the robbers and bring the hostages to safety. Meanwhile, the Knight Commander receives an update. A subordinate reports that the robbers have signaled him, specifically demanding to speak with Prince Aixa. The commander asks if the magic objects have been prepared. The aide confirms the robbers' demand. Send the magic objects with an ordinary human. Enraged, the Knight Commander shouts at Aixa, calling him a fool and forbidding him or any of the knights from going. Back with the prince's group, he asks the woman, Mako, if she is certain about her plan. She clenches her fist, confident that events are turning in their favor. Mira speaks up, reassuring Aixa that Mako punching the knight was necessary to get them taken seriously and set the plan in motion. He admits, however, that he now feels the true gravity of the situation as he prepares to go inside. A young woman with glasses steps forward, stealing her nerves. She tells herself that everything will be fine, reasoning that it can't be worse than the Obon season rush. With a determined look, she resolves to go through with it and walks toward the building. She arrives at the robbers' hideout. Inside, one of the men, who appears to be the leader, notes her arrival and comments on how easy it was. Another bald man sits nearby, eating and yawning. The woman announces her presence at the door. The leader warns her not to try anything, stating they can't guarantee the hostage's safety if she disobeys. The woman presents a bag, explaining that Prince Aixa arranged for the magic objects to be sent over inside it. The bald robber threatens her, telling her she'd better not be hiding anything. Nearby, Maru starts to cry out, but Mira quickly covers his mouth, praising his good thinking. From a distance, Mako watches the tense exchange unfold. Inside a building taken by criminals, the robber leader demands a young woman with dark hair take off her clothes for verification. His bald subordinate questions the unusual procedure, but the leader dismisses him, confident that the bonus from their success will smooth things over, especially after all the time they spent preparing an escape route. The woman, feigning compliance, internally notes the man's depravity and files away the mention of an escape route. She lowers her head, covering her mouth as if in fear. In truth, a different resolve forms within her. Though she feels for the other hostages, she recognizes this as an opportunity she must seize. He turns his back on her, shouting to his men to force the other captives to lie face down on the floor, facing away from them. The hostages gasp in terror at the command. With the hostages subdued, the leader believes the situation is under control. But a sudden, swift movement behind him makes him flinch, his eyes widening in surprise. The source of emotion is the young woman, who has armed herself with a long steel construction pipe. The leader stares, shocked, demanding to know what she is doing as she firmly grips her improvised weapon. Before he can react, she explodes into action with a fierce cry. The pipe becomes a blur, striking down the robbers with brutal efficiency. Cries of pain erupt as her relentless assault neutralizes them one by one. In moments, the fight is over. The woman, Mako, lets the pipe fall as Maru and Mira appear at her side. She calmly asks if they manage to pick out the tasty fruits. Nearby, Honda Mako watches the scene unfold, her expression one of pure relief. She then turns her attention to the astonished hostages. With a sharp whistle to gather their focus, she announces that everyone is all right and that they can all come out now. The freed captives immediately surround her, showering her with thanks. A guard asks about her technique, wondering if it was magic or a form of spearmanship. Others speculate that she must be a famous warrior or mage. Overwhelmed and flustered, Mako insists she is nothing of the sort. Their persistent questions become too much. Exclaiming in frustration, she quickly excuses herself from the crowd, stating that she has an urgent need to report to Prince Aixa. With the robbers subdued and bound, Prince Aixa interrogates their leader. He questions the man's true motives, stating that he doubts a common group of street thugs would have the intellect or manpower to orchestrate such a robbery. He posits that their main goal was never money or magical objects and asks directly if they were commissioned for the job. He continues his speculation, suggesting the entire incident could be a trap set by one of his opponents. He lists the potential reasons someone would target him: his advocacy for the coexistence of beastmen and humans, his refusal to part with his prize collection, and the noticeable lack of support from the knights. The robber leader grits his teeth in frustration, muttering a curse under his breath. Aixa, however, remains composed, thoughtfully concluding that causing an incident in a busy market would effectively spread rumors and tarnish his standing and reputation. As the knight commander arrives on the scene, the robber leader shouts at him in fury, exclaiming that this turn of events isn't what they had agreed upon. The knight commander angrily tells the man to be quiet, but the robber continues his outburst, accusing the commander of breaking his promise to help them reap the rewards. From a short distance, Aixa observes the interaction, remarking that he isn't surprised. His hand clenches into a fist at his side. Aixa wonders aloud who could have orchestrated such a difficult task. He considers his father, the king's loyal third prince, but dismisses the idea, deeming the scheme too childish. His suspicion then falls upon the eighth prince. Suddenly, the knight commander groans in pain and collapses, struck by an unseen force. Swallow stands nearby, her task complete. Aixa thanks her, expressing his hope that she didn't kill the man. Mako runs onto the scene, taking in the sight of the fallen knight commander with confusion. She asks what just happened. Aixa turns to her with a sigh and begins to apologize. He expresses his sincere regret, taking full responsibility for what happened to the two beastmen children while they were with her. He admits it was thoughtless to openly exchange a large sum of money, especially since seeing two beastmen children in such a store is unusual. Mako is stunned by his apology, realizing Aixa is a good person and that there may be hope for the nobility. Aixa adds that he will handle the charges against the knight commander. Her mind races with panic. She realizes she used magic in front of the prince and worries he will start asking questions. At that moment, an emissary arrives, announcing that the lord of the cyber estate is present to offer his apologies and gratitude for how the situation was handled. Startled by the new arrival and the escalating situation, Mako glances around frantically and calls out a name, Intia. She springs into action, shouting for everyone to get onto the cart immediately. With the great white wolf, Intia, already harnessed, she urges him to pull and run. As the other Mako helps the children aboard, she calls out her name, ensuring everyone is ready for the hasty escape. Her thoughts flash back to her parting words with Prince Aixa. She had entrusted him with a particular pipe, telling him to use it for his research. Acknowledging the constraints of his royal status, she had offered a final, heartfelt encouragement. Don't give up. The prince had watched them leave, his expression resolute. Their flight leads them to the torchlit safety of a Batakus village. The wolf beastmen celebrate with a feast, their leader holding up washed vegetables and declaring their success. He reminds his kin to thank Mako for the meal. When another beastman asks if it's all right to use the money she earned, she reassures him, saying it's fine since they saved her as well. Later, as she walks away from the festivities, the beastmen notice her departure, remarking on what a fun day it had been. She turns back with a gentle smile, agreeing that it's great to help each other out, comparing it to how a senior rider is always ready to help their juniors in a fight. She finds Maoru and Mira by a small cabin, their eyes drooping with exhaustion. She tells the two that it's their bedtime. The great wolf remarks on how much happened that day, and the children agree before turning to follow her. As they head inside, a sleepy Maoru asks if he and Mira can sleep next to her. Mako gently tells them to go to their own bed first. The twins look up at her, a silent question in their eyes. Her true intention is revealed as she, Maoru, and Mira all settle into Entia's immensely fluffy fur. She sighs, thinking the comfort is heavenly. The great wolf seems to concur, telling them all to relax and leave it to him. Nestled in the warmth, one of the children whispers her name. She looks down to see Mira looking up at her, apologizing for the day's events. He explains that they only wanted to do something that would make her happy. Mako gently pats his head, reassuring him that it isn't his fault and promising they will have more fun next time. His brother then adds that he was very worried when they were cornered at the store. This prompts Mira to confess his deepest terror, his voice breaking as tears well in his eyes. He was afraid they would be abandoned in front of the humans and end up dying, just like their mother and father. His eyes glistening with unshed tears, Mira looked up at Mako and confessed that in that terrifying moment, he held on to the belief that she would save them. He expressed his profound relief that she had, in fact, come for them. Beside him, Maoru nestled closer, adding his own heartfelt thanks for their rescue. Maoru, squeezing her arm with admiration, added that he thought she was incredibly cool and the strongest person there. Mako's expression softened into a gentle smile. She pulled both boys into a warm embrace, agreeing with a simple, yeah, and confessing that she was just truly happy that none of them had been hurt. Outside a wooden building, the wolf beastman Oga leans on a cane and greets Maoru, who is humming happily. Oga observes that the boy seems quite spirited today. The boy beams, explaining that he feels great because Mako made new clothes for them. Oga turns to Mako, impressed that she can do needlework. She laughs it off, saying they're just simple clothes, but their conversation is cut short by a sudden cry of anguish from a nearby field. It was Oga who cried out. He clutches his head in frustration. Mako, concerned, asks what happened. He gestures grimly towards the field, telling her to look. Her gaze falls upon a desolate sight. Rows of crops, all withered and drooping lifelessly in the soil. Oga explains his despair, stating that he has been watering and fertilizing them properly, yet they always end up wilting. He had hoped to grow a variety of vegetables, but it seems he has failed once again. Mako quietly takes in the disastrous state of the plants. As the children identify the very dry tomato plants, Oga sighs, lamenting that he went to great expense to purchase the saplings from the town market. He had hoped that growing good vegetables would allow them to sell them for a good price. Kneeling to inspect the soil, Mako forms a hypothesis. She suggests that the vegetables are not suitable for this soil, theorizing that the depletion of the soil and the local climate are stunting their growth and preventing them from flourishing. Suddenly, she remembers her Green Master title. A notification confirms that the soil survey skill has been unlocked. Deciding to use it, she activates the ability, causing a faint glow. The survey results pop into view, revealing the soil's acidity is acceptable for tomatoes, but it suffers from an extreme lack of nutritional value. She realizes they must control the pH and add nutrients. With this new information, she turns to Oga and asks if he knows why the soil is so lacking in nutrition. He admits he has no clue, explaining that this is a remote land rarely visited by humans, and there is much about it that his own people do not understand. Her line of questioning continues as she asks what he used for manure. He presents a sack he bought at the market, unsure if it's poultry or cattle manure, only that he was told it was good for crops. As she inspects the contents, the children add that it's what one is supposed to use to grow vegetables. She examines the manure and confirms Oga's fears. It doesn't smell potent enough. He was likely scammed. The realization hits Oga, and he slams his fist down in frustration, cursing that he was tricked. As he despairs, a notification appears before her. She has unlocked the liquid fertilizer skill under her Green Master title. With a newfound determination, she slams her hands down and declares to Oga that she will save his tomatoes. Her sudden confidence shines so brightly that the children shield their eyes. In a flash of light, 2 vials materialize in her hands. Oga, bewildered by the sparkling display, asks if they are magic potions for healing injuries. She clarifies that they are not, but he misinterprets, thinking the wonders will cure his backache. He pops the cork on one and brings it to his lips as she cries out for him to wait. It is too late. He collapses to the ground, gagging and retching. She stands over his fallen form, calmly reminding him that she had been trying to tell him they were fertilizers. While he foams at the mouth, she examines the vials more closely, noticing a third one has appeared. She understands now they are chemical fertilizers. A diagram in her mind clarifies their purpose: nitrogen for stems, phosphoric acid for fruit, and potassium for roots. With these 3 components, she can create the perfect fertilizer. She instructs Mira to find an adult to help move Oga. She prepares the mixture. Though she knows such fertilizers are normally diluted with water, she decides to use the concentrated ampoule directly, placing her faith in her skill. With a steady hand, she injects the solution into the soil at the base of a plant. The 2 children watch her, noting how tiny the plants are and asking if her plan will work. She admits that she is not yet certain. They will have to wait and observe the results. As they stand watch over the field, Oga is unceremoniously dragged away in the background. All they could do now is wait. The very next day, the field is transformed. The once tiny plants are now large, robust vines, heavy with plump, ripe tomatoes. The group returns to the field and stares in disbelief. Oga and the guardian wolf are stunned by the rare sight, while Maru shouts in excitement at the sudden bounty. Mako herself is dazed, swallowing hard as she comprehends the immense power of her fertilizer spell. She watches as the wolf leader, Oga, is thrown back by the sheer explosive growth of the tomato plants. He lands with a thud, utterly bewildered by what he's just witnessed. Maru rushes to his side, urging him to look at the amazing result, while Mira complains of a headache from the sudden event. Mako observes the scene, noting to herself that despite his rough exterior, Oga is a good person. The recent developments have had a significant effect on her own abilities. She takes a moment to check her status, confirming that her HP and MP have grown considerably. The acquisition of the Green Master title has clearly changed things. Her status now lists her name as Honda Mako, with skills including Alchemy Dialogue, Soil Survey, and Liquid Fertilizer, and titles of DIY Master, Green Master, and Pet Master. She reflects on the potency of her Soil Survey and Liquid Fertilizer skills. They seem to produce incredible results regardless of the area or soil type, improving the ground to an astonishing extent. As she muses, Oga, having recovered from his shock, begins to pluck the ripe tomatoes from the flourishing vines. Her attention is drawn away from the harvest when Maru approaches her with an earnest request. He wants to grow vegetables too, explaining that it would help him earn some money. Mako, seeing the hopeful look on his face, smiles and agrees to give it a try, causing the young boy's heart to flutter with excitement. Moments later, he returns, his arms full of young plants. He proudly announces that he got the saplings from Oga. Mako agrees that growing vegetables will be a fun experience and will certainly help their finances. With Mako's approval, Maru and Mira cheer, excited to begin farming. With their new goals set, they get to work. Mako declares it's time to inspect the quality of the soil. Maru agrees, and together they begin preparing a small plot of land near a wooden building, turning the earth with shovels. As she examines the freshly turned dirt, she activates her skill. Using Soil Survey, she realizes the ground here is the same as Oga's farm. A troubling thought occurs to her. The entire area seems to share the same odd soil qualities. The unchanging lack of nutrition is so severe it's almost like a curse. Despite the poor quality of the earth, they proceed with their plan. Mako decides they can grow the plants there anyway. She carefully places a sapling into the ground. Maru watches with pride as they finish planting all the saplings they gathered. Mako then kneels, preparing to apply her fertilizer to the new garden. The task takes a considerable amount of her magical energy. As she rests for a moment, a large figure approaches the newly planted rows. The great white wolf, Intia, nudges Maru, curious about the new plants. Maru quickly warns the guardian deity not to touch them. He then softens his tone, reaching out to the wolf. He tells Intia that if he wants to touch them, he must be gentle. The boy then affectionately pets the great wolf's snout, and Intia seems to accept the instruction. Mako watches them, a warm smile on her face, hoping their new crops grow quickly. She is jolted from her sleep by a faint creak. Lying beside the slumbering forms of Maru and the great white wolf, she drowsily calls out the boy's name. Her question is met with the sight of Maru standing near the doorway, trembling. He asks if something happened, his voice laced with fear, just as a loud bang echoes from outside. Rushing to investigate, Mako peers out into their field and confirms her suspicion. Someone is there. It's a small child, a girl with flowers in her hair, who gently touches one of their newly planted saplings. The girl apologizes to the plant, her expression full of sorrow. Suddenly, a brilliant light erupts from the sapling. Mako and Maru watch in shock as the girl drains its life force. Maru realizes she is stealing the plant's nutrition, and as he speaks, the sapling visibly wilts and withers. Having been discovered, the girl spins around, her eyes wide with alarm. Mako stares back, stunned, processing the impossible sight before her. She wonders if this child could be a flower fairy. The fairy offers a tearful, desperate apology before turning and fleeing into the darkness of the woods. Mako calls for her to wait, then quickly tells Maru they must pursue her. Their chase leads them into the forest, but Mako soon realizes they cannot follow her far in the pitch-black night. As she pauses, Maru notices a trail of faintly glowing petals that the fairy left behind on the forest floor. Following the luminescent trail, they arrive at the mouth of a dark cave. The petals lead directly inside. Mako cautions Maru to step carefully as they prepare to enter the cavern. Inside, they find a flower fairy standing over a figure lying on a bed of leaves. Mako and Maru both swallow nervously, their eyes fixed on the unexpected scene. Moonlight streams into the cavern, illuminating the full scene. The flower fairy sits beside the still, unconscious form of the nobleman, Iksa, who rests upon a makeshift bed of foliage. She holds out her hands, for which a faint energy seems to emanate, and announces that she has brought some. The sight leaves both Maru and Mako speechless, their eyes wide with astonishment. Kneeling beside the unconscious nobleman, Iksa, she gently places the gathered life force upon his chest. In response to her ministration, his eyelids flutter, and he slowly blinks awake. A young girl, Frisia, lets out a weak cough, calling for her big sister. The older woman looks on with concern. Nearby, Mako is startled by their sudden appearance, asking who they are as Maru looks on. The sisters explain that they belong to the Alran race and come from a distant kingdom called Alfrando, where they had been living in a cave. Frisia continues their story, recalling the day humans came and attacked their home. As her sister's condition worsened, they were separated from their people, and only the two of them managed to escape. The older sister explains that the Alran are akin to flowering plants, sourcing their nutrition from the earth, and that her power can be restored. With tears welling in her eyes, she sniffles, worried that her big sister won't survive. Mako now understands. The plants were taken from her field because the local soil lacked the nutrients Orchidea needed. Overcome with guilt, Frisia bursts out with a sincere apology. Mako quickly reassures her, saying it couldn't be helped and that she was simply doing her best for her sister. The older sister then formally introduces herself as Orchidea, fourth queen of the Alran kingdom of Alfrando, and presents her little sister, Frisia. Maru is stunned to be in the presence of royalty. Mako tells them she understands their situation and asks them not to worry or reprimand Frisia. Orchidea, however, looks troubled, uncertain of how they can possibly repay such kindness. She laments that all they wanted was to live in peace, though she feels she cannot criticize the people of this world. As she speaks, Mako raises a hand, her expression resolute. She declares that while she may not have a dream of her own, she can protect the dreams of others. A green light emanates from her palm as she offers her power, the ability to restore the vitality of vegetation, to Orchidea, certain it will help her recover. Orchidea gratefully accepts. Sometime later, Orchidea stands fully revitalized, holding a basket of flowers and smiling warmly. She announces that everyone has done well. Frisia, however, recoils with a disgusted expression, shouting that the medicine was incredibly bitter. Mako can only agree. She expresses her gratitude to Mako for saving her life and offers to help by growing flowers, as she cannot do physical labor. Mako is relieved to see Orchidea's condition has improved. Maru and Mira offer to help with the weeding. Orchidea confirms she feels wonderful thanks to the liquid fertilizer Mako provided, though she wryly comments on its taste. Mako, holding a basket of tomatoes, acknowledges this, proud of her bountiful harvest. Mako observes the villagers chatting happily, remarking on the lively and bright atmosphere. Orchidea agrees, thankful they were able to meet her. She adds that the scene reminds her of her motherland and its common folk. As they speak, Maru rushes over to report that a human is at the village entrance asking for Mako. She is surprised, wondering how anyone would know about her, especially someone aware of magic tools. Her surprise turns to shock as an older man approaches from a carriage, loudly introducing himself as the lord of the Weberer house, owner of the greengrocer's shop she saved from bandits. He explains that he wished to thank her personally for saving his shop and employees. Mako observes him, thinking he seems like a cordial and righteous person who truly treasures his workers. The Lord insists on showing his gratitude by coming himself. As he speaks, an idea strikes Mako, and she asks him for consultation. She presents the vibrant red tomatoes to the merchant lord, asking if the vegetables grown in their village are good enough for his shop. He eyes them with skepticism, noting that the local land has long been denuded and unsuitable for a good yield. The merchant states that he makes no compromises when it comes to business. As he lifts a tomato to inspect it, Oga growls a quiet warning. The merchant takes a large bite, wondering if they were grown using chemical fertilizers to compete with high-grade grocers. The merchant's eyes widen in shock. The tomato is incredibly juicy, with a refreshingly tart taste and a sweetness that reminds him of berries. He has never tasted anything like it. With newfound excitement, he declares his desire to stock the produce in his shop at the earliest opportunity, much to the delight of Oga and Mako. He asks if they have more to barter for, but Mako explains the rest are still unripe. Unfazed, the merchant proposes a sales contract for periodic shipments, noting the tomatoes are worth a significant amount of silver. Mako realizes the income would be enough for the entire village to cultivate their fields. She looks on as the beastmen celebrate, reflecting on how she'd heard they faced discrimination, yet everyone now seems to be having a wonderful time. She readily agrees to the deal. The merchant lord then lowers his voice, asking her to keep the fact that she is staying there secret, mentioning something about magic objects. He adds that he understands she must have her reasons. The unexpected mention of this topic makes Mako flinch in surprise. Sometime later, Mako enjoys a picnic with Maru and Mira. Maru exclaims how much fun he had preparing the lunchbox with her and declares his sandwich delicious. Mako smiles, explaining that it tastes so good because they used the tomatoes he grew. Nearby, she notes that they were only able to cultivate the plants thanks to Orchidea and Frisia lending their powers. As they relax, Mako enjoys the refreshing mountain breeze. She points out that the nearby mountain is a volcano, which is why they sometimes experience earthquakes. She then notices a large fence, identifying it as a barrier to protect against beasts. Since the beastmen have already been driven to a remote area, she deduces it must be to stop wild boars from troubling the villagers. She reflects on how she was never able to relax like this, even on her days off. Maru's voice cuts through the calm as he suddenly asks if Mako can build them a house. Startled by the abrupt request, she asks why. He explains that their current home feels a bit cramped. As if on cue, the great wolf Intia bursts through the door, causing a commotion and making Mako spill her drink. Maru apologizes for the chaos. Mako considers the idea, admitting that it might be possible for her, but reminds him she isn't all-powerful. She notices Mira's quiet demeanor and asks what's wrong. He explains that since she has accepted him and Intia as family, they will all be living together now. Mako understands their need for more space, but worries about the time and resources required, especially with the Beowulf people busy farming. An idea strikes her as she recalls home centers selling individual shed kits, and she considers her own practical experience from setting up product displays. Her thoughts are shattered by a loud, ominous rumbling from the forest. Later, while walking through the woods, Mako points out a native herb to Mira. She reassures him that building the house won't take long if everyone helps. As Mira plucks the herb, Mako identifies another nearby plant as an insect repellent. Suddenly, Maru's voice rings out in alarm, shouting both their names. Mako turns, startled, asking what's wrong. Her gaze follows his to a figure sitting among the trees, a person she recognizes. At that same moment, Maru screams a warning to Mira. A monstrous, snarling wolf lunges from the undergrowth directly at the boy, who freezes in terror. As the beast closes in, Mako rushes forward. As the monstrous wolf lunged for him, a stranger suddenly intervened. With a powerful cry, the man drove his fist into the beast's jaw, sending it reeling. Mako, rushing to Mira's side, anxiously asked if he was hurt. The boy, though shaken, confirmed he was all right. He stood over the defeated beast, his attention turning to a companion clad in full red and silver armor. The armored figure commented on the impressive force of his punch, comparing it to a legendary technique. The man seemed to brush off the praise. Nearby, Mako tried to get their attention, but her words went unheard. His moment of composure was short-lived. The man suddenly swayed, his eyes losing focus before he collapsed heavily onto the ground. Mako and the children rushed to his side in alarm. Kneeling down, she quickly checked his condition, relieved to find his breathing was normal and hoping he hadn't sustained any serious injuries. She looked over the unconscious stranger, taking in his well-made gear and the emblem on his armor. Given his appearance and fighting prowess, she surmised that this person might be an adventurer. With 2 large brushes in hand, a special grooming session is about to begin. Mako cheerfully explains to the great wolf Inchia, that Maru and Mira are very excited for the task. The boys eagerly divide the labor, with Mira taking one side and Maru agreeing to take the other. As they begin to brush his thick white fur, the great wolf seems to find the sensation rather pleasant, thinking to himself that it's not so bad. The task, however, proves tiring for the young boys. Soon after, Mako finds them both fast asleep against Inchia's side, the wolf resting peacefully alongside them. Picking up a brush herself, she continues the grooming, pleased with the results and commenting on how good he looks. She wonders aloud how much the boys managed to do and if she should keep going. Inchia, meanwhile, internally declares that his fur has achieved a state of perfect fluffiness. The afternoon sun warms the peaceful wolf village, where other beastmen go about their daily routines, carrying tools and baskets. But the peaceful atmosphere is soon interrupted. Mako, now carrying a basket, finds herself and the sleeping children surrounded by a crowd of other wolves, including a small pup. They all look up at her expectantly. Confused, she turns to the great wolf and asks, "Inchia, what's this?" A man with pointed ears awakens with a blink, finding himself in an unfamiliar room. The dark-haired woman who rescued him explains that he collapsed and asks what happened. He rises to his feet, thanking her for her help, but she places a hand on his shoulder, surprised by his sudden movement. She insists it would be better for him to eat something first, just as her own stomach growls loudly. Offering him a bowl of soup, she notes that it will be good for him and asks if he has not eaten in a while. He quietly confirms that he has not. As he devours the food, he admits that he hasn't had a proper meal in 10 days, shocking the woman who now understands why he collapsed. She asks if he's an adventurer, pointing to a badge on his gear. The two cat children, Maru and Mira, appear and explain that guilds are like unions for many occupations, not just adventurers. The man, however, clarifies that he is not one. He introduces himself as Garai. Coughing slightly, he states his wish to repay her kindness before he leaves and asks if there is anything he can do to help. The woman is taken aback by his resilience, but thanks him for the trouble. She thinks for a moment, a realization striking her. She confirms that there is indeed a boatload of chores he can help with, like laundry and kitchen work, pleased to have found such a nice person. Elsewhere, a wolf-like hand accepts a glass of water. The scene shifts to a group of wolf beastmen resting from their labor. One complains that farming is an all-day job he can't wait to finish. The pack leader, Oga, splashes water on him and scolds him, saying they'll grow nothing with that attitude. Just then, the dark-haired woman arrives, calling out to the hard-working group. She asks if they've been tending the fields all day with no time for their own homes. The beastmen confirm this, lamenting they are too exhausted for meal prep or cleaning and begging for help with their laundry. Clapping her hands with decision, she agrees to tackle the laundry first, calling for Mako to take care of it. She then announces that Garai will be helping them out, and he nods in agreement. Maru and Mira look on, wondering who this person is. Mako, along with the entire group of beastmen, stares in wide-eyed amazement. The result is an astonishing amount of laundry, all washed and hung up to dry in perfect rows. Mako exclaims at the sheer quantity. Garai, however, seems unimpressed, asking if it's just laundry. Mako quickly refutes this, insisting it's a huge task. Garai works with incredible speed, scrubbing and wringing clothes without a break. Mako watches, amazed that he's finishing so quickly. He hangs everything immaculately to prevent wrinkles. When she asks if housework is his specialty, he explains that the guild he was in sheltered homeless children. Mako realizes it was like an orphanage and internally notes his meticulous personality would make him a perfect hire for her store. She watched him work, realizing his skill level was far from basic. Garai explained that living at the guild, he grew accustomed to a minimalist lifestyle. Mako, noting how extremely capable he was at all jobs, asked what his guild was like, since he wasn't an adventurer. The children, Maru and Mira, chimed in, excitedly asking what kind of jobs he did, though a hint of worry crossed their faces as they wondered if this meant he would have to leave soon. He carved a piece of wood, thinking to himself that it wouldn't be good to overstay his welcome. As if reading his thoughts, Mako assured him it was all right to stay for a while. Just then, Phrygia squealed with delight over the wooden figures he had just finished, a bird and a frog. She found them incredibly cute. Garai mentioned that the children in his guild in town were always thrilled when he made them, and Mako couldn't help but admire how skilled he was. Their excitement was palpable as the children chattered about decorating the fields with the new carvings. As they admired the little bird and frog figures, a realization struck Mako. She considered his skill with his hands, his talent for detailed work, and his solid physical strength. A plan began to form in her mind. If it was him, it might just be possible. Her mind made up, she turned to him with determination and asked loudly, "Garai-san, would you like to help me build a house?" The sudden proposal surprised everyone. Garai questioned her reasoning, and Mako explained that their current house wasn't in good condition. She wanted to build a new home where they could all live together. He looked at her seriously, asking if she had any experience with building a house. Mako admitted that she only had experience with small-scale projects. In response, Garai revealed that he had previous experience in drawing blueprints. He now examines the drawing Mako has laid out on a table. The children peer over the edge, one of them excitedly asking if they will build their new house right there on their street. She expresses her confidence, stating that with a capable person like Garai helping, they can pull off the rebuild without any issues. She clenches her fist, determined not to let this chance get away. Understanding her resolve, Garai agreed to help. The children cheered, eager to assist in any way they could. Mako announced that, with breakfast finished, it was time to get started. With the plan set, the newly formed construction team stands ready. Mako, holding the blueprints, takes the role of site foreman, with Garai as the main builder and Maru and Mira as the helping hands. Their first task, procure some wood. To procure the tools, Mako uses magic. An axe materializes in a flash of light, startling Garai, who is amazed she can use magic. However, the axe proves too heavy for Mako to lift, and she struggles under its weight. She explains that she based its image on an axe she saw at a home center during a work trip to America. He offers to try it out. Taking the massive axe from her, Garai swings it with impossible ease. With a few powerful strikes, he fells a thick tree. It crashes to the ground, leaving Mako and the children staring in utter astonishment at his display of strength. He calmly agrees to proceed. Mako, astounded, exclaims that what should have taken a week was accomplished in a single day, with daylight to spare. As she unrolls a blueprint and explains the next step is to cut the logs into timber, she realizes he is already doing so, a magical saw buzzing through the wood with ease. He presents a perfectly cut piece of timber, asking if it meets her standards. Overwhelmed by the quality, Mako clasps her hands together, calling his work magnificent. She remarks that with such skill, they would never struggle for work. Composing herself, she instructs him that the next task is to level the ground for the foundation. Mako turns to thank Orchidea for her assistance, but then voices a concern. The freshly cut wood is too green and needs to be seasoned before it can be used. In response, Orchidea simply places her hands over the stack of timber, and a gentle energy begins to emanate from her palms. As the energy surges, the wood rapidly dries, cracking and settling as all moisture is drawn from it. Mako watches, apologizing for having to ask such a favor of her. She elaborates on her guilt, finding it unacceptable to receive help from an Allron after felling so many trees, knowing the significance of plants to her people. Orchidea offers a reassuring smile, telling Mako not to worry about it. She explains her perspective, stating that plants are essential for all life, serving as nutrition for animals. When a living thing dies, it nourishes another in a cycle of codependence. With this, she expresses her hope that they will put the wood to good use, and Mako nods in understanding. Orchidea then outlines the next construction phases, noting that she will need Garai's assistance. The construction progresses swiftly. While the children take a brief rest, Mako directs from a ladder as Garai effortlessly lifts and sets the heavy structural posts into place. As evening approaches, they stand together, observing the frame of the house taking shape. Mako remarks with satisfaction that the structure is truly coming together, and he quietly agrees. A sudden burst of energy overtakes her, and she declares her desire to finish it immediately. Realizing the late hour, she amends that they will continue the next day, to which a weary Garai simply consents. She lays out the next phase of the plan. She will create the materials for the roof and walls, and Garai will install them. She muses aloud about needing waterproof and insulating materials, considering what could be substituted. With a flash of light, she magically produces large, finished panels, which he then carries toward the structure. In what seems like no time at all, the house stands complete. Mako looks on with immense pride, marveling that she managed to build a modern-style house in this new world. The children stare in awe, with Mira pinching Maru's cheek to confirm that what they are seeing is not a dream. She stood inside the completed house, watching as Intia stretched out, exclaiming at the vastness of the space. Turning to Garai, she apologized for making him work through the night. She suggested he get some rest, adding that Intia's fluffy fur would make for a comfortable bed, an idea the children eagerly supported by proposing they all have their meal inside. He remained silent for a moment before she insisted he rest, as he hadn't slept at all. Instead of accepting, he turned away, stating he would tidy up and that she should be the one to rest. As he walked out, she reflected on his nature, a sincere man who diligently repays his debts, yet one who maintains a distinct, uncrossable boundary. He paused at the doorway, his hand gripping the frame as he glanced back with a troubled expression before stepping out into the night. A short while later, Mako found him outside. She asked if it was all right to call him by his name, Garai, and then inquired about his work at the guild he belongs to, inviting him to sit with her. She observed that despite not knowing his circumstances, he was still awake and pushing himself. A thought formed in her mind. Someone who cannot admit their loneliness risks becoming like a king, unable to comprehend the pain of others. She realized there was still much she needed his help with, just as the time for his departure from the village was approaching. He finally spoke, admitting his concern that she might collapse again from overexertion. He confessed that he had enjoyed building the house with her so much that he'd completely lost track of time. As they talked, the children slept soundly on Intia's back, murmuring in their dreams about having a picnic with all of them. Looking at him directly, she made her request. She wanted him to stay in the village for a while longer. His eyes widened in surprise, and she responded with a gentle smile, accepting his unspoken agreement. And so, a dependable friend joined their ranks, a new and welcome addition to the village. Outside, the group gathers around a table, diligently crafting flower arrangements. Mira points to one, explaining that the blue and red flowers represent him and Maru, while the white one in the center is Mako. Mako thinks it's cute. Suddenly, Frisia pops her head out from a planter, urging Mako to look. Mako's heart melts at the sight, finding it incredibly adorable. A small, white rabbit figurine is then placed among the blossoms. Frisia remarks on how cute the rabbit looks nestled in the flowers. Garai gives a thumbs up in agreement, and Mako praises his work. Orchidea then suggests to Frisia that adding yellow flowers would create a better balance. Eagerly, Frisia agrees to try. Orchidea then reveals her own creation, a breathtakingly vibrant and complex arrangement, explaining that she channeled all her power into it. Mako is left speechless by its magnificence. The sight fills Mako with a sense of nostalgia, reminding her of parent and child events from her past. As she reminisces, Oga approaches the group. He asks what they are making. Mako explains that the Viber Lord has agreed to sell their creations at the market. Her explanation is punctuated by the arrival of the merchant Lord Viber himself, who laughs heartily. He confirms his offer, stating that besides vegetables, he can help transport and sell any local specialties they might have. Mako is taken aback by his generosity. She breathes a silent sigh of relief, thankful for her earlier intervention. When Orchidea asks about the flowers, Mako privately wonders if they will sell well, considering they also have other goods like wild plants and dried meat. Oga inspects one of the finished baskets, remarking that it looks good, which brings a smile to Mako's face. The group shares their hopes for the venture. Orchidea is certain everyone will love them, and Frisia agrees, hoping they sell well. Mako expresses her own belief that they will, gently stroking Mira's head. Several days pass. Their hopes are realized when Lord Viber suddenly appears, shouting Mako's name with unbridled excitement. He declares that there has been a huge response from the market. He eagerly elaborates on their triumph. The vegetables were wildly popular, selling out almost instantly. Furthermore, the flower planters featuring Garai's wood-carved dolls became a massive hit, sparking a flood of inquiries from women and children across town. With a wide grin, he congratulates everyone for their hard work, and the assembled beastmen erupt in cheers. Later, Lord Viber approaches Mako, presenting a small token of gratitude for their success. Mako, however, voices her concern about her presence in the area being discovered. He quickly reassures her, promising that her information has not been disclosed. He insists that despite appearances, he is an excellent confidant, and Mako exhales in relief. Her relief, however, is tinged with lingering worry. Her thoughts drift to Aixa and the knights, acknowledging the trouble that would arise if they found her. She wonders what the prince is doing now, assuming he is too busy to be carefree and relaxed. Meanwhile, far from her concerns, the wolf clan celebrates their prosperity with a great feast. Intia, the guardian wolf, revels in the delicious, fatty meat, declaring it a new and wonderful experience. Oga encourages the great beast to eat its fill, promising more is on the way. As they celebrate under the stars, in a dark, unknown place, a viscous black substance drips ominously. He licks Mako's face affectionately, his tail wagging as he muses that if he'd known such delicious meals were available, he would have descended the mountain much sooner. Mako, flustered, points out that he has completely forgotten his dignity as a wolf god. At the same time, a cheerful Orchidea clings to her, sighing that she feels completely at ease. Caught between them, Mako protests, asking who gave Orchidea drinks. Elsewhere in the village, the celebration rages on. Garai effortlessly downs mug after mug of drink, while the other beastmen struggle. Even the formidable Oga is knocked out, slumped over a barrel. One wolf declares the drink unbeatable, but Garai simply demands a stronger challenger. Maru watches, impressed by Garai's skill, who casually replies that he's not bad at it. Nearby, Maru approaches Mako, who is still dealing with a cheerful Orchidea and the guardian wolf. He quietly asks her if she isn't going to drink, while Orchidea declares that she will be next. Her eyes widen in alarm as she sees Maru take a large gulp from his wooden mug. She shouts his name, telling him not to drink alcohol. Maru, startled, cries out that she is wrong. It is only fruit juice. The misunderstanding is resolved, and the boisterous evening at Abatius village continues. Oga invites Mako to join them for a drink. The night is lively and fun, and it feels as though every day to come will follow in the same peaceful footsteps, or so is thought. The following day, a strange noise draws the attention of Mako, Maru, and the guardian wolf. Mako asks what is happening, and the great wolf turns towards the commotion, explaining that it seems busy over at the village entrance. As they approach, they see the source, a contingent of strange knights in black armor, figures they have never seen before. Mako stares at the crest on their armor and banners, a sense of dread creeping over her as she realizes she has seen that emblem before. The wolf beastmen growl, their bodies tense. Oga wonders aloud if it could be the royal army, but another dismisses the idea, questioning why they would be in their remote village. Mako gasps as the memory clicks into place. It is the same crest she saw in Ix's armband. The ranks of knights part to reveal an opulent carriage. A door opens, and a woman in fine, elegant attire steps out. She stands before her armed escort, looking down towards the village with a dismissive air and remarking, "So this is it." She turns to a knight in ornate, horned armor, commenting that the shabby village of beastmen is just as she had heard. The knight confirms her assessment, explaining that this is the source of the handicrafts that have become so profitable at the market. He adds that since the Viber Lord refused to reveal anything, they had to search for the place themselves. Below, the villagers can only watch as the powerful figures discuss their home. He watched as Mako's eyes widened. She recognized the soldier's black armor, a detail that stirred a grim memory for Orchidea. The Alron Queen confirmed Mako's suspicion, stating that these were the same troops that had raided her country. With a haunted look, she added that they had not forgotten. When Mako asked what had happened, Orchidea simply stated that those guys were responsible. Taking a step forward from the defensive line of villagers, Mako addressed the noblewoman directly, demanding to know her business in their village. The noblewoman let out a dismissive laugh, mocking the very idea of business. Her amusement vanished in an instant as she snapped her fan shut. She declared they were on official business and introduced herself with regal authority. Auntie Mishka Antelope Groaga, the third princess and heir to the throne of the kingdom of Groaga. The soldiers, she explained, were her personal chivalric order. She tapped the closed fan against her chin, continuing her explanation. The princess claimed she had heard of unclaimed land in this remote area and had come to validate it for the benefit of all humans, a task she described as truly arduous. Mako could only echo the word living, confused by the princess's phrasing. Her pretense fell away, revealing a cold, imperious gaze. Looking down upon the assembled villagers, Princess Auntie Mishka delivered her true decree. They were all to leave this land immediately. A wave of shock and disbelief rippled through the crowd of beastmen and their allies. The third princess of Groaga, Auntie Mishka, looks down upon the villagers with disdain. She declares it a waste for beastmen to occupy such a profitable place, stating that humans will take over to make effective use of the land. Stepping forward, Mako introduces herself as a human who has been living in the village and directly asks the princess to state her intentions. She firmly states that evicting them is impossible, as it would rob them of their livelihood. Mako explains that the village's agricultural success is a result of everyone's combined efforts. Her own skill revived the land, Orchidea and Frisia gifted it with vitality, and the strenuous efforts of Maru, Mira, Garai, and everyone else brought forth the crops. She concludes that there is no reason for them to simply take the land away. The princess dismisses her argument, stating that simple profits are irrelevant. Her primary concern is that this is a living land. She explains that they graciously accept offers from various species to harness the powers of their lands, because a flourishing harvest is directly tied to the land's inherent power. Snapping her fan shut, she reveals that the key to it all is magic. She elaborates that magic exists throughout the natural world, but only the royals, chosen by blood, can truly control and contain it. Mako processes this new information, realizing that the land is living because of its magic powers. Auntie Mishka confirms this, adding that these powers are what allow humans to stand strong against neighboring nations. The princess continues, explaining that these magic powers must be channeled into arms and weapons for their soldiers and knights, who do not possess magic themselves. This creates an overwhelming display of power. She smiles, finding the thought exhilarating, and declares it is all for the supremacy of her nation, Groaga, led by her father, the king. Her expression hardens into a predatory grin. She proclaims that it will be she, Auntie Mishka, who carries out her father's will and leads the nation into its next era. Seizing this land is merely the first step. Mako lowers her head, quietly acknowledging that she understands the princess's intent. Her quiet acknowledgement gives way to defiance. Mako shouts that it is impossible for them to align with such an ideology. The beastmen behind her roar in agreement, yelling that the princess cannot simply do as she pleases. Oga adds that the animals in the mountains are becoming barbaric, theorizing it's because the royals are usurping the land's power from one end to another. Mako realizes the dire consequences. If the land loses its power, abnormal plants will grow, and wildlife that consumes them will mutate into monsters, causing the entire ecosystem to collapse. Auntie Mishka is unfazed, musing that if the land becomes cursed and filthy, so be it. She then coldly reveals their strategy. This is precisely why they must invade other countries, to replenish what they have lost. Oga speaks up, acknowledging that as humanity progresses, beastmen and demons are being driven into the hinterlands. He points out, however, that some species, like his own, possess productive capabilities. Auntie Mishka casually dismisses his dissatisfaction, assuring him she will give it some serious thought. With a grand, benevolent gesture, she announces her supposed solution. They will establish a special area for the protection of beastmen and other races. She adds that this will also allow for human monitoring and prevent the expansion of what she calls thought-restricted species. A chill runs down Mako's spine as she realizes the horrifying truth behind the princess's words. It's a sick joke, a plan for segregation and control. She immediately understood the princess's true meaning of protection. It was nothing more than rearing the beastmen for the profit of the human population, a plan she internally decried as no different from slavery. Princess Auntie Mishka, however, saw it as a marvelous idea, a way to properly educate the laborers for their best interests. In response to this declaration, The wolf leader formally requested that she return from whence she came, a sentiment the other beastmen clearly shared. The princess paid the beastmen no mind. Instead, she approached Mako, tapping her on the head with a closed fan as if to check on her. She mused that the current situation was not conducive to a calm conversation and suggested they take time to understand each other later. Then, twisting a lock of Mako's hair, she added that she hadn't truly heard her opinion yet. With the royal corps standing behind her, she dropped all pretense of negotiation, commanding Mako to simply keep quiet and follow. As she spoke, the princess yanked Mako's hair, pulling her face close. She sneered, questioning if Mako honestly thought she possessed the patience to dialogue with lowlives. Mako's jaw tightened. She knew she had to resist. Seeing her in distress, the young beastman Mira rushed forward, grabbing her tunic and crying out her name. The confrontation triggered a memory of her past life, her colleagues remarking that while the service industry had taught her how to handle difficult people, this time her opponent was royalty, and continued defiance could have dire consequences. The boy's attempt to intervene was cut short as a sudden jolt of force threw him backward. The princess watched, her expression hardening with surprise at the unexpected resistance. In the Beastman village, the third princess, Auntie Mishka, addresses Mako. She remarks that while the flowers caught her eye, she has absolutely no interest in buying anything made by what she calls filthy beasts. In response to the insult, young Mira kicks at the princess's leg. Below them, a crowd of wolf beastmen watches the confrontation unfold. Infuriated, she seizes Mira's ear, but Mako intervenes, pushing her hand away. Mako demands that the princess leave, questioning if this violent behavior towards children is what her father, the king, has taught her. She admonishes the royal for ignoring the well-being of her citizens. Her face contorted with rage, Auntie Mishka raises her fan to strike Mako. At her side, two royal knights move to protect her, shouting that the villagers are traitors and must be killed. Before the knight's weapon can connect, it shatters into pieces. Garai has appeared, effortlessly blocking the attack aimed at Mako. As she stares in shock, he calmly apologizes for losing his cool, though she assures him it's not an issue. Auntie Mishka demands to know who the newcomer is. One of her knights recognizes him, suggesting he might be part of the Shadow, a dark guild that undertakes contracts no one else will, even those the country's highest echelons want nothing to do with. The knight continues, explaining that Garai is renowned for his exceptional skills, operating solo to gather intelligence, assassinate targets, and even subjugate wicked dragons. The princess is stunned by the mention of a dragon, dismissing it as a fairy tale. Garai, however, simply sighs, calling the description an over-exaggeration. He holds up his arm, stating with certainty that this was the very limb that pierced through and dealt the final blow to the dragon. The knight clenches his fist, acknowledging the persistent rumors about Garai Kirin. From this, Garai correctly assumes the knight has also been involved with the Shadow. Meanwhile, the great white wolf, Intia, emerges from the woods and approaches Mako. He announces that he will join the fight, intending to remind everyone of the long-forgotten power of the divine descendants of the wolf gods. As Mako acknowledges him, the wolf leader, Oga, steps forward with another warrior. He declares that this is Abitokus, the village of the Beowulfs, and that they will not be forgotten in this battle. His words ignite the resolve of the other villagers. They rally, shouting that they have grown attached to this land and will not hand it over. They will fight to protect their home. Mako, filled with emotion, understands that their unity is thanks to her, and her expression hardens with determination. Their defiance enrages the royal envoy. She announces herself as the third princess, Auntie Mishka Antelope Groaga, questioning how they could possibly resist her authority. She boasts that the army present is merely a fraction of her power, and that going against royalty is tantamount to treason against the entire country. She screams that they will all be crushed with no way to escape, demanding to know if they understand their precarious position. As the villagers watch, Mako realizes they must handle this calmly. The princess then turns her attention to Garai, challenging him to prove he has no ties to the village. Before he can answer, a calm voice cuts through the tension. The seventh prince, Iksa Raygun Groaga, steps forward with his attendant, Swallow. He poses a question to his sister. What would happen if he, by royal decree, were to forbid her from meddling with the village? The third princess is stunned by his sudden intervention. He meets her shocked gaze with a serene smile, but she furiously accuses him of forgetting how he has already insulted their father. She claims he has effectively revolted by advocating for equality between humans and beastmen, abandoning his princely duties for his own hobbies. Iksa calmly retorts that, despite all that, his title as seventh prince has not been revoked. As their confrontation escalates, the Horn Knight warns Princess Auntie Mishka that Iksa's supporters cannot be overlooked. Swallow elaborates, noting his influence extends to merchant houses, market cities, and magic research institutions, and that a key sword instructor is from the Sukuna clan. The princess shouts that she is already aware. Unfazed, Iksa announces his decision to join the battle for the right to succeed the throne. He explains that he is tired of being harassed by his siblings and has made up his mind, having taken an oath. He declares the village is of great significance to him and must be protected from the royal family's selfish whims. Hearing this, the third princess accepts his declaration of war, vowing that he, the villagers, and Mako will all be crushed. With the challenge issued, the princess and her retinue depart. Aixa turns to the villagers. Mako, surprised, asks how he came to be there. He greets her, noting it has been a long time, before addressing the entire group. He states plainly that their situation has now become a matter of life and death. Within the Beastman village, the air is thick with a noisy tension. Oga, the wolf leader, and the great white wolf Beowulf stand as imposing sentinels, their arms crossed and expressions grim, while the twins Maru and Mira linger in the background. Nearby, Aixa speaks with Mako, expressing his sincere regret that he couldn't have arrived sooner. He clarifies that his delay wasn't due to any secrecy from the Viber Lord, whom he considers very trustworthy. She explains that this is how they found their way to the village, recounting how they had to canvass the town market for any information about where the Beowulfs lived. Aixa listens intently, nodding in understanding. Mako concedes that her hope for an easy time was wishful thinking. In response, Aixa reveals he had wanted to meet her much sooner, but Swallow held him back, judging the situation too risky. He thanks Swallow for her caution. Mako admits she made a messy exit that caused a commotion, justifying their prudence. With a smirk, Aixa notes she hasn't changed, then confesses his true aim, to meet her with more allies so he could better observe her and conduct further research. She then reveals that, in truth, she had approached the village once before. A memory surfaces of her watching the Beastmen living in calm and peaceful harmony. Seeing them so content, she felt it wasn't her place to interfere and turned away. Aixa listens with a gentle, understanding expression. Mako thanks him for keeping them in his thoughts, admitting she had considered keeping her situation a secret. He reassures her that it's fine. When she looks puzzled, he smirks, explaining that he had merely provided an opportunity and was waiting for the right moment, all while devising various strategies. Flustered, Mako protests his calculating nature. He apologizes, shifting the topic. He explains that he rushed to the village upon learning that his sister, Auntie Mishka, was heading there. Getting straight to the point, Aixa states that they must discuss their current situation. He describes Auntie Mishka as someone who has been fixated on claiming the throne since childhood and is prepared to do anything to achieve it. Aixa lays out the grim political landscape. Their country currently has 61 heirs battling for succession. Mako is stunned by the number. He shows her a document, a succession ranking, explaining that it's an order of precedence based on merit and power, not birthright. He points to his own rank, 7, and then to Auntie Mishka's 3. Mako immediately grasps the implication. This system must breed bloody internal conflict. He confirms her fears, revealing that this conflict is precisely what the current monarch desires. The Shadowy King believes such strife will not only determine the most outstanding survivor, but also inspire growth and progress, leading to the birth of a new, stronger regime. Mako is horrified by the thought, finding it unendurable to be caught in the horrors of war. While she's heard that fierce competition can aid progress, this is too much. Aixa adds his own theory. This internal struggle is likely the reason for the country's continued expansionism, linking the discrimination against beastmen to their invasions of surrounding lands. She asked at what stage the succession race typically concludes. Aixa explained that it only ends upon the current monarch's death, or whenever he decides to name a successor. He added that Princess Auntie Mishka is a fervent admirer of their father's ideology, which is why she is so eager to trample other nations for her own advancement. As Mako absorbed this grim reality, Aixa pointed towards a nearby mountain, revealing that the princess's army was already encamped there. He believed they would request support from their own forces and attack the village that very night. His assessment was confirmed by Swallow. A wave of frustration washed over Aixa as he realized his presence had only provoked his sister further, solidifying her desire to destroy the village. He is considered by many to be a prince absorbed in his hobbies and uninterested in the throne, yet he holds the 7th rank among 61 contenders. As Aixa called her name, Mako's brow furrowed in thought. She felt there was a crucial detail she was overlooking. He then stated plainly that the village would almost certainly be turned into a battlefield. Aixa revealed he had a military force prepared covertly and urged Mako to take the villagers to safety. In that moment, she understood his plan. He intended to take the lead in the fight, turning a dispute between the Beastmen and his sister's forces into his own battle. Mako saw his true motive clearly. He wanted to protect them, no matter the cost. Addressing Aixa directly, Mako explains her belief that the royal family's visit is a result of the village's growing presence, admitting they have stood out too much. While grateful for his consideration, she firmly requests that he leave this matter to them. He listens, contemplating her words. He reflects that beastmen are traditionally expected to live quietly under constant watch, but he does not want that future for them. He sees their simple wish for a world where everyone can coexist in happiness and resolves that he must gather the strength to deal with any future problems. As he thinks, the entire group of villagers, Garai, Oga, Orchidea, the children, and the great wolf Entia, emerges from the woods. Mako calls out to him, announcing that her discussion with them is finished and that she has a plan to achieve their objective. She then turns to Maru, asking how he feels. The boy insists he is fine and no longer in pain. His sister, Mira, adds that what their attackers did is unforgivable and she is ready to fight. Oga and another wolf beastman roar in agreement, declaring they will show their strength and are ready for battle. Mako thanks Garai and everyone for their unified support. Garai warns that their enemies' numbers will only grow, so they must strike while the iron is hot. On behalf of the villagers, Inchia entrusts their lives to Mako's hands and asks her to tell them what they need to do. Their collective plea is directed at Aiksa, who looks on with a troubled and thoughtful expression. Standing before him with her people, Mako makes their intention clear. They wish to protect the village with their own strength, to ensure they can continue to exist in freedom and happiness. Aiksa, flanked by Swallow, acknowledges her point. He states that for that very reason, they cannot allow themselves to lose heart. Mako smiles down at Maru, agreeing that there is still so much they want to do together. She turns back to the prince, looking him in the eye. So Aiksa, she asks, will you help us? After a moment's pause, he concedes. All right, I'll listen to what you've got planned. With his alliance secured, Mako turns to her people, her fist clenched in resolve. She rallies them with a cry to fight and to win, and they respond with a unified shout of agreement. She spreads her arms wide, reassuring the assembled villagers and beastmen. She tells them not to worry, as they now have Prince Aiksa on their side. Because Princess Animishka has underestimated them, she explains they have a chance at victory, and she will now lay out their strategy. She continues, pointing a finger for emphasis, stating that the princess is likely waiting for reinforcements to crush the village with overwhelming military force. Therefore, if they wish to overthrow them, their best chance for success is to strike now. Her resolve hardens as she recalls a past trial. The opening of a new store where all her staff collapsed from overwork, yet she was the last one standing. But this time is different. She has dependable allies. With renewed determination, she declares that they will show their enemies what they are made of. She draws inspiration from a figure named Soma Haruto, resolving to persevere against fate with the same courage. Turning to the crowd, she announces that they will begin their preparations immediately. The villagers and beastmen erupt in a unified, affirmative roar. As preparations begin in the valley village, the enemy forces are already poised to strike. A carriage, flanked by the Horned Knight and his soldiers, stands ready. From their ranks, a voice declares it is showtime, boasting that they have been ready for some time. A low crackle of energy emanates from one of the knights. Within a lavishly decorated interior, Princess Antimishka slams her hand down, furiously demanding to know when her reinforcements will arrive. The Horned Knight calmly advises her to remain calm, assuring her that their current forces are more than enough to eradicate and suppress such a small village. He continues, explaining that the situation is to their advantage. Since Prince Aiksa is merely attempting to rally forces against his opposition, it presents the perfect opportunity for them to strike. There is no reason to rush. As he speaks, Antimishka's hand clenches tightly, her knuckles white. Her composure finally breaks. She bites her thumb, seething that they dare to resist her, a royal. She vows to crush them, to cripple that shameless bitch until her guts spill out. Her rage extends to her insolent brat of a brother, Aiksa, whom she believes is only reckless because their father allows it. Her fury freezes into a cold realization. This is a perfect, unrepeatable opportunity. She turns her attention to the Horned Knight, questioning him about the man named Garai, whom he seemed to know. She asks if they are past acquaintances. The knight clarifies that Garai didn't recognize him. He then reveals that before joining her, he was involved with the dark side, where he heard of Garai's skills and developed a wish to compete against him. Antimishka dismisses the matter, telling him she won't hold him back, and he can do as he pleases. The Horned Knight continues his internal monologue, reflecting that Garai is a legendary figure in the underworld. His thoughts then drift to a memory of a young girl who appeared out of nowhere and used a mysterious weapon. He considered the possibility that the display was magic-made. Princess Antimishka scoffed at the idea, finding it impossible that she and the woman in the village could share the same bloodline. She concluded it must be a magic tool, likely one borrowed from her brother, Aiksa. As her knight tried to address her, Antimishka simply sighed, a hand to her cheek in eager anticipation. She whispered to herself that she could not wait for the confrontation. A nearby soldier then reported that the reinforcements would be arriving shortly. Gazing out at the distant mountains, she silently hoped that the moment of battle would arrive soon. Meanwhile, the Horned Knight surveyed the forest perimeter. When asked if the villagers might be escaping, he stated with confidence that he had stationed scouts all around the village. Any such attempt would be reported immediately. One of these scouts, peering through a spyglass from the cover of the trees, observed the villagers' activity. He noted that they didn't seem to be planning an escape, dismissing them as fools. Suddenly, a rustling sound from nearby broke the silence. He and his companion tensed at the sound. The scout confirmed he heard a noise, realizing with alarm that something was approaching their position. His attention was drawn back to the strange sight in the village he had been observing. A large, ceremonial pile of offerings surrounded by the beastmen, a detail he had initially found merely odd, but now felt ominous. A few hours earlier, the dark-haired woman rode swiftly through the forest on the back of the great white wolf, Intia. She urged him to press on just a bit more, promising to get them closer, and told him she would be calling on the others later. He seemed to understand. As they continued on their way, her attention was suddenly caught by two large boars standing on the path ahead. After finding a suitable clearing, she dismounted and informed Intia that this spot would suffice. It was his turn now, and he acknowledged her command. He then climbed a rocky outcrop and unleashed a powerful howl that echoed across the land. The woman stood by, announcing that Inigo was calling for them all to gather at once. His call was answered. A massive herd of boars emerged from the surrounding woods, a truly impressive sight. The woman watched, awestruck, as they all assembled. Their initial reception was hostile, with the boars demanding to know who the intruders were and warning them not to be intimidated by the wolf. Unfazed, the woman smiled warmly, thanking them for answering her call. Intia noted quietly that things were proceeding just as planned. She continued her address, formally apologizing for any previous careless attacks. She explained that she had been sent to speak with them, as their actions were causing hardship for the village, and that the villagers wished to make amends. As a token of this apology, she announced, a grand feast had been prepared for them. The boars reacted with disbelief, one demanding to know if it was a joke. Another conceded that while being attacked was startling, if she understood their position, it was acceptable. The woman then gestured toward the village nestled in the valley below. Their eyes fell upon tables laden with a delicious-looking spread. The boars murmured in excitement, asking if they could truly eat it all. The woman confirmed they could, but laid out the conditions. They must wait for Intia's howl as the signal. It was first come, first served, and any damage to the village or its people would void the offer. The boars roared their agreement, and she declared that preparations for Phase 1 were complete. The signal was given, and chaos erupted. The entire herd of boars became a thundering stampede, a wave of tusks and muscle charging toward the village, each one desperate to be the first to the feast. They were swiftly subdued. One of the boars, caught in a splash of liquid, found himself immobilized as it solidified around him. The wolf leader, Oga, observed the scene with satisfaction, noting that Mako's plan to use volcanic ash mixed with water had worked perfectly. He watched as Mako surveyed the result. A veritable mountain of bristly bodies, packed so tightly they resembled a fluffy carpet. She marveled at the sight, almost tempted to lie down and snuggle into the mass of fur. She addressed the now docile creatures, who expressed their immense gratitude for the delicious feast, remarking that they hadn't eaten so well in a long time. One of the boars declared that humans weren't so bad after all, and, deciding Inigo must be her name, pledged their loyalty to her side. The great white wolf, Intia, stood by silently. Their leader then mentioned running over some strange folk on their way, but Mako clarified the situation. She revealed that some truly malicious people were currently targeting the village, seeking to seize their tasty vegetables and beautiful flowers. She pointed towards the clearings on the opposite side of the mountains, identifying the location of these villains. Upon hearing this, the boars erupted in fury, declaring their hatred for such scoundrels. Their rage solidified into a promise. They vowed to take on the villains, to tear them to shreds, and even to rally the other creatures of the forest to their cause. Mako watched them go, a small, knowing smile on her face as she mused that it was almost like she had fed them lies, though she hoped they wouldn't go too far. Meanwhile, in a lavishly decorated tent, the third princess, Auntie Mishka, was startled from her repose by a sudden rattling. She was thrown from her seat as a tremendous slam shook the entire camp, followed by screams from outside. Furious and alarmed, she demanded to know what was happening. Her guard rushed in, his face pale with panic, and delivered the unbelievable news. Their camp was under attack by wild boars. The princess was left dumbstruck, unable to comprehend how such a thing could be possible in such a short amount of time. The chaotic battle rages as a massive herd of boars crashes into the enemy lines. Amid the fray, Garai and Mako ride atop the great wolf Intia. Mako observes that the wild boars, which have been driven down from the mountains, are surprisingly powerful. Nearby, Queen Orchidea declares her intent to join the fight, having just consumed a drink Mako provided. Mako thanks her, encouraging her to drink as much as she needs. Reacting to the overwhelming odds, Orchidea grimaces at the bitter taste of the drink, but channels the power it has bestowed upon her. She proclaims that through her, this power will flow back into the earth, commanding it to resurface tenfold as tenacious roots, which erupt violently from the ground to ensnare the enemy soldiers. The massive roots surge upwards, catching the Horned Knight completely by surprise as the soldiers are entangled. As Mako and Garai ride past on Intia, she looks back at the chaos and thinks to herself how reliable her queen is. Her relief is short-lived as the Horned Knight breaks free from the roots and lunges towards them with blinding speed. Garai twists around, shouting a warning for him to stop. He lands with a heavy thud, his path blocked. The great wolf, Intia, stands firm between the knight and its riders, growling defensively. The commander glares at the formidable beast. The armored commander, identified as Reze, addresses his opponent by his full name, Garai Kirin. Reze expresses surprise at meeting him again so soon. In response, Garai instructs Mako to head towards the carriage while he deals with the commander. Reze scoffs, questioning if Garai truly thinks it will be so easy. While he holds the line, Mako finds herself surrounded by royal knights. She realizes with alarm that even with the help of the boars and Orchidea, the enemy's numbers are still overwhelming. Nearby, one of her allies cries out in pain. At that moment, a new ally arrives. Swallow, sword drawn, announces she is there to assist under Prince Ix's orders, assuring Mako that her actions are fully sanctioned. As she speaks, Inchia lets out a ferocious snarl, reminding the knights that they face a descendant of the mighty wolf gods, causing one to recoil in fear. Meanwhile, Garai parries a heavy blow from Commander Badrez. He shouts Mako's name, telling her to go and leave this fight to him. Understanding, Mako gives a firm nod and turns to run. Trusting him completely, she runs with determination, thinking to herself how truly dependable her comrades are. In the distance, the duel between Garai and Commander Badrez continues. As the wider battle continues, Garai, Kieran flinches, clutching at his chest. Across from him, Commander Badrez observes his opponent's distress, uttering a single word. Garai can only manage a frustrated click of his tongue in response to the apparent blow. Meanwhile, Mako finally reaches the large, covered carriage, panting from the exertion of a run. Peering inside, she murmurs in disbelief that the being within cannot possibly be human. Her expression hardens with resolve. She knows she must restrain the occupant. At that moment, Orchidea appears behind her, holding a thin rod. The Alron Queen reluctantly agrees that it has come to this, but voices her grave concern, doubting the creature will be okay after the ordeal. Commander Badrez explains his nature to Garai, clarifying that he is, strictly speaking, half-human. He possesses magic powers and the blood of monsters, much like the Alron. He demonstrates this by channeling magic power, causing his body to swell and enlarge to a colossal size, far larger than normal. He declares this to be the power of the blood of giants. With a roar, he brings his massive fist down, but Garai leaps high into the air, evading the attack. From his vantage point, Garai realizes Badrez is a demon human, a Kijin, possessing the same power that once defeated a wicked dragon. Inigo watches the display, stunned into silence. Meanwhile, Auntie Mishka taunts Inigo, her voice dripping with scorn. She tells Inigo that no matter how hard she tries, she will never achieve her desire. She mocks Inigo's strategy of using boars to lead the charge, dismissing it as typical for a rustic woman. Inigo flinches, clearly distressed by the words. She continues her tirade, asserting her own identity as powerful, a conqueror, and royalty. She declares that Inigo and her people are different from the chosen ones, warning her that this is what happens when one defies royalty. Auntie Mishka then reveals a shocking personal history, stating she is the daughter of a prostitute. Her royal father, seeking a successor by any means, had a child with her mother. She explains that people with magical powers are almost always royalty or monsters. The implication dawns on Inigo. By that logic, her entire village is considered evil. Auntie Mishka adds that after her mother's death, she was abandoned and forced to work as a slave in a brothel. She recounts her miserable upbringing, having no time to sleep or even worry, where the slightest show of discontent was met with unreasonable aggression. The memory seems to resonate with Inigo's own past traumas. Auntie Mishka asks contemptuously if Inigo could even imagine such a life, before stating that everything changed when a king's messenger arrived to inform her she was recognized as one of her father's successors. Her expression turns manic as she declares that this was the moment her life returned to how it was always meant to be. She acknowledges it was partly due to her father's philandering and curiosity, but for her, it was a life-altering revelation. She continues, describing how the brothel owners who had treated her like a slave suddenly changed their attitudes and groveled at her feet. The brothel was set ablaze, and the prostitutes were kicked out to become comfort women in the slums. Inigo realizes with horror that in that moment, something inside Auntie Mishka must have broken, giving birth to the cruel person before her. Auntie Mishka screams her new conviction. Those with power have every right to trample on those without it, the right to dominate. She dismisses the beastmen as irrelevant. Unable to bear it any longer, Inigo yells at her to shut up. Defiantly, Inigo asks where the sin is in fighting for her own happiness. Auntie Mishka retorts that there is nothing wrong with using the power in her hands to take what she wants. With a furious cry, she lunges forward, a dagger aimed directly at Inigo. She found herself on the ground, but the expected blow never landed. Instead, a shimmering barrier deflected the dagger, leaving Auntie Mishka utterly stunned by the unexpected defense. As she clutched the small amulet in her hand, a memory surfaced. Maru, pressing it into her palm, a gift made from the very tool she had used to fix their home. His simple gratitude was a world away from the princess's declaration that those with power have the right to trample others. Snapping back to the present, she faced Auntie Mishka's renewed, furious charge. With a flick of her wrist, a shower of nails erupted from thin air, forcing the princess back. Auntie Mishka stared in disbelief at the mundane projectiles, but Inigo clarified that this was the same power she had used to protect the children's home, to make their living space stronger. Her voice rose with conviction as she recounted using this very power to save the children when they were taken hostage. She spoke of the joy of building a home with Garai, a project that had forged a bond strong enough to make him stay. She had made the land fertile for the farmers, helped Orchidea replenish her life force, and made the entire village a better place. This declaration was punctuated by a powerful surge of energy that erupted from her, blasting Auntie Mishka backward. The princess cried out, unable to resist the force, as Inigo asserted that this strength was never for herself. Standing over the defeated princess, Inigo spoke with a quiet finality. She confessed that while she could not agree with Auntie Mishka's philosophy, she understood it. Perhaps, she mused, if her circumstances had been different, or if she didn't have everyone supporting her, their paths might have been similar. But as it was, she could never be like her. With that, she turned and walked away, leaving Auntie Mishka alone on the dusty ground. On a barren battlefield, Kiran confronts a large, muscular warrior with a horn headband. The warrior smirks, contemptuously asking if Garai is the so-called evil dragon slayer. His opponent shouts his name, but Garai's focus is absolute. He realizes this is not a situation where he can afford to be on the defensive. Just then, Mako arrives with a confident thumbs up, announcing that she kept them waiting. The horned warrior dismisses her arrival, telling Garai it makes no difference who joins him. The warrior lunges, declaring his intent to prove his own strength by defeating a nobleman. He throws a powerful punch, but Garai evades it with startling speed, leaving his attacker momentarily stunned. From a distance, Aixa observes the display of power. Garai turns his attention back to his foe, stating that with Mako safe, he no longer needs to hold back. He promises to teach the warrior how to kill an evil dragon, revealing that the same magical power flows through his own veins as dark energy begins to swirl around his hand. He clenches his fist, pouring all of his magic into the strike. He explains that this power will corrode muscle and raw bone. The horned warrior, sensing the immense danger, cries out for him to wait, but is too late. The blow connects, sending the warrior flying through the air before he crashes hard onto the ground, defeated. Mako watches in astonishment as Garai remarks that his opponent shouldn't have used so much of his own power. Mako approaches him, congratulating him on a job well done. Garai turns to her, his immediate concern being her safety, and asks if she is all right. He repeats his question, and she walks toward him with a reassuring smile, confirming that she is perfectly fine. The three companions, Garai, Mako, and Frisia, stand together, surveying the aftermath. The battlefield is littered with the unconscious forms of the royal knights and the horned warrior. Mako looks at the scene and declares that it's finally over. She watched as the third princess, Auntie Mishka, stared in disbelief at the scene of defeat. Her composure shattered. Auntie Mishka demanded to know what was happening, her voice sharp with fury. Kiran, standing over the fallen knights, simply warned her to stay back. Her rage escalating, she shrieked at her forces to stop hesitating and kill their opponents immediately. She dismissed their surrender as meaningless, declaring that the outcome of the battle had already been decided. A calm voice cut through her tirade, addressing her directly. Aixa, the seventh prince, appeared and informed Auntie Mishka that as the holder of the third rank of succession, she had just been formally defeated by him, the holder of the seventh rank. She refused to accept this, sputtering that she had not lost. Aixa calmly reiterated that it was indeed her loss, gesturing towards an older official standing nearby. He explained that this man was the designated observer for this battle of succession and would be recording the outcome. He then turned his attention to Mako, explaining that while the odds of victory had been slim, he had calculated them. He declared that this official succession battle would be reported to the king as his win, a victory he owed entirely to her, and that he would report it to his father. Addressing his defeated sister once more, he stated that while he could have her eliminated, he was willing to spare her life. In exchange, he demanded she surrender the two things she valued most, her title and all the rights she had controlled up to this point. She readily agreed to surrender her rights, but then questioned if he truly believed all she cared about was not being told she had lost to him. The prince paused, thoughtfully touching his chin as he considered her words. He then laid out the consequences for her, explaining that if she were to retaliate against the beastmen now, it would be officially recorded as a petty act of defiance. Such a move, he noted, would surely be a great disappointment to the king. The weight of this threat left Auntie Mishka speechless, and Mako watched on, realizing the depth of the prince's cunning. With the terms set, the official observer asked Aixa for confirmation of his decision. The prince affirmed it, and the official agreed, stating he would relay the details of the negotiation to the king at a later time. As they departed, Auntie Mishka remained kneeling on the ground, utterly defeated. She watched the defeated princess, a sudden realization dawning on her. She understood that no matter how much time she spent with Aixa, she would never have grasped the true nature of his plans. Though they were both searching for someone, his methods were worlds apart from anything she could conceive. She turned away from the defeated princess, calling out to Garai for his help with one last task. With a determined expression, she then rushed past the official observer, shouting for Prince Aixa to wait. With Garai holding the bound Princess Auntie Mishka still, she seized the royal's face and forced the contents of a small vial into her mouth. As the princess choked and sputtered, Mako explained what she had just administered, a magic potion of her own creation. She stated that even though Auntie Mishka was not of the royal family, the potion would allow Mako's own magic to permeate the princess's body. The effect was immediate. Princess Auntie Mishka's form began to dissolve into particles of light over the water, a serene smile on her face as she faded away. Mako watched the process unfold. In moments, the princess was gone, leaving only a small, glowing crystal behind, which fell and shattered upon the ground. Mako then delivered a chilling warning to the still-bound princess, revealing the vision was merely a demonstration. She reminded Auntie Mishka of what happened to Orchidea, who was turned into a crystal root, and declared that if the princess ever tried to harm their village or its people again, she would suffer the exact same fate. Sensing her distress after the threat, Prince Aixa placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. He told her it was all right and swore that he would stake everything he had to ensure she would never have to resort to such measures again. With the matter settled, they parted ways. Aixa and Swallow waved goodbye as they departed, and Mako smiled, telling the prince she was counting on him. Beside her, Garai remarked that their ordeal was finally over. He then turned to Mako, asking if it was time to return home. She looked at him and replied with a cheerful affirmation. Their quiet moment was interrupted by shouts from a distance. A crowd from their village had come to greet them. Oga, Intia, Frisia, Orchidea, Maru, and a wolf pup. Beaming with joy, Mako announced to Garai that they were going back to their village. As the celebration continued late into the night, the wolf leader, Oga, approached Orchidea with a mug in hand, asking what had become of Mako and her companions. With a warm, knowing smile, Orchidea explained that they were, in essence, the heroes of the day's events, leaving Oga to ponder her words with a look of confusion. They had retreated from the festivities to find their rest. Inside, curled up against the immense, warm body of the sleeping guardian wolf, Mako, Garai, Maru, and Mira slept soundly. Wrapped in a shared blanket, they were a portrait of profound peace, finally safe and together after their long ordeal. As their cart trundles through the countryside, Maru and Mira point with excitement at the fields filled with cows. In the back of the cart, the dark-haired woman, Orchidea, and the guardian wolf relax while the wolf leader observes their surroundings. He notes that the sight of a farm means they are getting close, while Orchidea remarks on the sheep contentedly eating grass. His observation proves correct moments later when he spots their destination on the horizon. He calls out to the others, announcing that the royal capital is now in view. Before them lies a sprawling, fortified city built upon a hill, crowned by a magnificent castle with towering spires that reach toward the clouds. The sight leaves the dark-haired woman breathless as she murmurs that this must be the royal capital. Nearby, Mira, holding a paintbrush, cheers that after a month of travel, they have finally made it. The journey's end brings to mind their recent preparations. Not long ago, the dark-haired woman had inspected a newly reinforced wooden building, declaring it much stronger and now capable of withstanding rain and humidity. A wide-eyed Mira had asked if she truly meant it. The key to the building's new resilience was a skill Mira had acquired: paint. He had marveled at the properties of both water-based paint, which was low odor and good for indoor use by beginners, and a more durable, beautifully finished oil-based paint meant for exteriors. As she stands lost in these memories, the wolf leader's voice pulls her back to the present. He asks what's wrong, reminding her of their meeting about the new shop. Just then, Maru calls out that Lord Viborer has arrived and everyone is gathering, prompting the dark-haired woman to remember the true purpose of their visit to the capital. Moments later, the merchant lord, Lord Viborer, addresses the assembled group. He announces a grand project. The Viborer family will directly manage the sale of specialty goods from the forest of the guardian deity. The dark-haired woman is stunned by the scale of the operation. Clutching a sample, her appraisal skill confirms it as a level 2 ingredient, and she realizes she has been swept into something far larger than she ever imagined. He apologizes for the wait, and with everyone now gathered, the dark-haired woman, the beastmen, Orchidea, and Garai, he formally declares the meeting can begin. The Lord starts by addressing the matter of the store itself. He informs them that he has already secured a plot of land in the capital. Originally, his family had intended to build a new greengrocer shop there, but he is now pleased to offer the location for their joint venture, as he is indebted to the people of her village. She listened as the merchant lord, Viborer, declared this a prime business opportunity, offering to invest his own funds. He proposed to handle the construction, interior design, and even the procurement of goods, asking if this meant they were ready to build a shop. Her mind immediately filled with visions of the potential merchandise. She imagined vibrant floral arrangements, fresh tomatoes, intricate wooden dolls, and other handcrafted goods filling the shelves, a colorful representation of their village's bounty. This vision prompted a practical question. She asked Lord Viborer about the distance to the royal capital, and he confirmed it was a 2-day journey by carriage. The realization struck her. Transporting perishable items like flowers and tomatoes would be a significant challenge, as they could spoil. They would need to devise a reliable method of transport, and also consider hiring and training local sales staff. She then proposed a solution. The producers themselves should go to the capital. This way, they could directly explain their products to the customers. The wolf leader, Oga, immediately approved of the idea, noting that since he had crafted some of the items, he would have much to say. The Beastman elder, however, looked on with uncertainty. The idea was met with a note of caution from the guardian wolf, Beowulf. He worried that the Beastmen would be taken advantage of if they tried to sell their wares in the human capital. Mako listened to his valid concern before declaring with conviction that this was precisely why they all needed to go together. She met his concern head-on, explaining that since they were selling things made in their own village, they had to accept the responsibility that came with it. There could be no misrepresenting the origin of their goods. With a determined expression, she rallied them, proclaiming that they would go and sell the things they made with their own hands, with pride. Her passionate words resonated with the group. Oga, Beowulf, Orchidea, and the twins all seemed to agree, their expressions reflecting a newfound resolve. Lord Viberer simply watched, a curious look on his face as he processed her conclusion. Emboldened by their support, she flexed her arm with a confident grin and declared that they should just build the shop themselves. Lord Viberer was aghast at the suggestion, questioning how they could possibly manage construction from the foundation up without any specialized knowledge. Her bold declaration was met with immediate support from Maru and Mira. They reminded everyone that Mako and Garai had built their house, so they could certainly build a shop. Lord Viberer could only stammer in disbelief. The two of them. Mako's expression hardened with resolve. This was no mere shop to her. She knew that with her own arm and Garai's precise magic, it was possible. To illustrate her point, she presented a detailed architectural drawing of a grand, impressive building. She argued that building a single house was well within their capabilities, and a unique design would have a greater impact. Furthermore, procuring the lumber from their own village would only add to the store's appeal. Lord Viberer and the wolves stared, utterly amazed, as she proudly announced that she had created the design herself. Her ambitious vision ignites a wave of enthusiasm through the assembled villagers. Orchidea confidently states that with Frisia present, increased sales are a certainty, while the guardian wolf offers to serve as the shop's living signboard. The wolf leader steps forward to organize the logistics, declaring he will handle the lumber transport and asking for volunteers. A boar villager eagerly accepts the task. Seeing the unified spirit, Mako raises a fist, shouting for everyone to give their all in building the new store, and the crowd roars in agreement. Amidst the celebration, her attention turns to Garai, who stands apart from the crowd. Noticing his quiet demeanor, she encourages him, saying that he needs to do his best as well. He offers only a quiet, hesitant acknowledgement in return. His subdued reaction gives her pause. The words Dark Division and Dark Guild cross her mind with a flicker of realization. As if sensing her thoughts, he quietly reveals that he was once a member of the Dark Guild in the capital, a past that seems to isolate him even now. Aixa arrives with a cheerful wave, asking Mako if she is there and if she can lend him a hand. He inquires about the progress of her discussions regarding the capital. Nearby, Mako stands with the Beastman Elder and the young twins, Maru and Mira. She looks at Aixa with concern, asking what happened and noting that he seems to be forcing his cheerful demeanor. She adds that she's been given some milk. He presents a sealed scroll, explaining that it is a letter of recommendation from him. He warns her that the merchant society in the capital is harsh and competitive, and that among them are unsavory types who employ crude tactics, a thought punctuated by the image of menacing eyes lurking in the darkness. Continuing his explanation, he assures her that if she presents his name, she should be able to avoid any trouble. He offers her a drink, which she accepts with a word of thanks. His attention then shifts as he asks if Garai is around. In the foreground, Garai is focused on a small, intricate box, seemingly oblivious, as someone calls out that the shop preparations seem a bit strange. She turns back to Aixa, mentioning that she heard something happened concerning Garai in the capital and wonders aloud if she should speak with him about it. From his spot, Garai tersely tells them to stop bothering him. Aixa approaches Garai directly, asking what he is doing there. Garai gives a slight bow, telling Aixa not to be so formal and addressing him by his full name, Garai Kirin. Aixa observes that Garai seems to be trying to hide his circumstances. He presses the point, asking if there is a reason Garai is avoiding the capital that isn't just a whim. Garai remains silent, his expression unreadable. Aixa then reveals that he has pulled strings behind the scenes to resolve everything. He declares that there is no one left in the capital who would pursue him. Garai looks up in shock, asking if it is truly over. With a confident smile, he assures Garai that he guarantees it. Overwhelmed with relief, Garai stammers his thanks. In the background, Mako watches the exchange, expressing her happiness that Garai will be coming with them. He turns to Mako, telling her that with him around, everyone can focus on their business with peace of mind, acknowledging that the village has been attacked many times before. Mako agrees, saying they can handle anything together and affectionately calls him Big Brother. Visibly pleased, Garai thinks to himself how surprisingly honest she is. Mako then rallies the group to head to the capital, and with Aixa's agreement, they prepare to depart. As they begin their journey, Aixa speaks privately to Garai. He states that he will not tell Mako about Garai's circumstances, leaving the decision of whether to tell her entirely up to him. Garai understands, acknowledging that this is a great help. Upon their arrival at the capital, Mako approaches a gate guard. She presents a letter, explaining it is a certificate of introduction from the Viberer family. The guard examines it with a skeptical expression. His skepticism turns to shock as he beholds the massive, motley crew assembled behind her. The great white wolf howls while the other beastmen stare intently, creating a chaotic and intimidating scene. Flustered, Mako quickly offers another item bearing a seal as the guard panics. Thinking how suspicious this all is, he shouts for them to be allowed through, his voice filled with alarm. As Mako leads the procession into the city streets, onlookers murmur amongst themselves, surprised that such a peculiar group would come to the capital. Mako herself acknowledges that their appearance is indeed quite strange. While the main party continues down the bustling street, Orchidea takes the children aside. She informs them that she will handle the lodging arrangements first. Mako looks around the prosperous street, remarking that it truly feels like a prime location. A voice calls out to her, and she turns to see an older man with slick back hair waving enthusiastically. He introduces himself as the master of the house, welcoming her and directing her to follow him. He leads her to a construction site where wolf beast men are hard at work carrying lumber. The man expresses his surprise that they're truly capable of building from scratch. Mako explains her plan to build an impactful shop using wood from their home village, which will serve as excellent advertising. The merchant lord agrees with her assessment, admitting that as a merchant, he has much to learn from her ideas. Mako laughs, attributing their progress to everyone's cooperation and the use of magic. She looks over the stacks of lumber, declaring that this is everything they need. With the materials delivered, Mako calls out to Oga and the others, telling them they can return to the village for the day. Oga gives a confident thumbs up as Mako thanks them for their help with the next product transport. That night, gathered around a table, Mako raises her glass with determination. She announces to Oga, Garai, and Orchidea that they will proceed with the plan starting tomorrow, asking for everyone's cooperation. Orchidea, carrying a sleeping Phrygia and leading the twin boys, suggests they all get some rest after the long journey. Oga, however, declares that he and the others will drink a little more. As they depart, Mako looks out the window into the night, realizing she still has some time before she needs to rest. She turns to Garai, suggesting they take a walk to see the capital streets since they have some time. She tells him not to worry, cheerfully adding that if any strange metal pipes appear, they can just smash them. Following her suggestion, they step out into the night. Mako's eyes widen in pure wonder as she takes in the sight of the bustling, brightly lit city streets, a stark contrast to the quiet inn. The view expands, revealing a magnificent town square teeming with people under a starry sky. Ornate buildings glow with magical light, and a grand stone bridge arches over the scene, leaving Mako utterly impressed. As they explore, an armored man approaches the group. He remarks that while it's called the capital and is certainly spacious with many people, it doesn't seem all that different from a place called Shinjuku, a comment that visibly flusters Mako. Continuing their walk, Garai points towards a large, impressive building down the street, identifying it for Mako as the Adventurers Guild. She quietly acknowledges his observation. A surge of determination fills her. Mako clenches her fists, declaring that the city truly feels like something out of a fantasy, and that tomorrow, they will begin building their own shop right here. Her sudden burst of energy makes Garai turn, asking what's wrong. She seems slightly embarrassed, simply telling him to be careful because of the crowds, before her gaze is drawn upward towards one of the buildings. She turns back to him, taking his hand and calling his name. With a look of shared purpose, she tells him that they must both do their best starting tomorrow. Her fighting spirit ignites. She declares that the one with the highest morale always wins, a sentiment echoed by the sudden appearance of a masked warrior behind her. She then reasons that they should rest early to recover their MP, as they'll need tools and hardware for the work ahead. With a final, booming cheer, she rallies herself for the coming day. Nearby, Aixa calmly suggests to Garai that it's probably best to let her shout, as suppressing it would be worse. In the bustling streets of the capital, Mako, acting as the site's supervisor, rallies her crew with a cheerful command. Holding a clipboard, she encourages everyone to work hard until the grand opening, her voice ringing with determination over the sounds of construction. The workforce is a picture of organized effort. While Orchidea guides the children and Phrygia with a gentle hand, the main construction is handled by Garai and the great wolf Beowulf, who notes the fine weather and reminds his partner to stay hydrated. As she oversees the work, Mako's attention is drawn to a group of passing nobles. Their disdain is palpable as they mutter about the presence of beastmen in the royal capital, calling the crew a suspicious, foul-smelling group. A flicker of concern crosses Mako's face. Their muttered complaints soon find a voice. A man with reddish-brown hair, identifying himself as from the nearby Twilight Pavilion restaurant, steps forward to confront them. He demands to know what they are doing, questioning why beastmen are living in the capital, a place he claims is for humans. In response, Mako steps forward, undeterred. She points out that this land was supposed to be the construction site for a new store for the Vibor family and questions what he is doing there. She firmly states that there is no rule forbidding beastmen from entering the royal capital. His expression hardens. The man declares that the Vibor family has long been a supplier of high-quality vegetables for his business, and he cannot simply stand by and allow lawbreakers to operate so close by. He presses on, mentioning the master of the Vibor house and the strange goings-on. Mako, looking weary of the argument, pulls out a document. She informs him that it is a permit, already confirmed by the security knights, for the construction of their designated store. The man is taken aback. Mako advises him to stop trying to stir up trouble, explaining that while she doesn't know the full situation, discrimination against beastmen is especially strong among the royals and upper class. From a distance, Prince Aixa observes, remarking to his companion that provoking this group in the castle town could have negative consequences for them as well. With a flourish, Mako unfurls the permit, its official seal prominent. "Don't worry," she declares, "Prince Aixa himself is supporting our business venture." The restaurant owner and his blonde companion stare in disbelief, the latter sputtering the prince's name. Mako adds that such threats are useless against them. The blonde man is utterly stunned. He recalls that this is the same prodigal prince who supposedly defeated Princess Antimishka and wonders what he's plotting now. Mako, looking exhausted by the ordeal, quietly corrects him under her breath, muttering that it was a magic tool. Nearby, Aixa and Garai watch the scene unfold, a faint smile on the prince's lips. She listens as the restaurant owner processes the news, his employee looking on in shock. The owner recalls the brutal rumors surrounding the War of Succession, that Princess Animishka was sacrificed in a bloodbath. The memory seems to leave a bitter taste, and Mako herself appears slightly unsettled. He continues his train of thought, realizing the implication. With the princess gone, Prince Aixa is now third in line for the throne. The owner warns her that Prince Aixa has powerful supporters, then tells the Twilight Pavilion crew to do their best. With a confident smile, Mako accepts the challenge. As he turns to leave, she cheerfully declares that she will make good use of the prince's name. Her declaration leaves her own crew speechless, the weight of their new association dawning on them. She turns to her Beastman family, reassuring them that they don't need to force themselves to get along with everyone. Her goal, she explains, is to create a place where those who like them can gather freely. If they can attract customers and make a profit, their business will be a success. Her words ignite their spirits, and they cheer with renewed determination. As she watches them, a thoughtful expression crosses her face. She wonders how she might get the restaurant owner to see them without his prejudice, all while casually eating a snack. Elsewhere, Oga and Intia are enjoying a meal with gusto. Garai watches them, commenting on their impressive appetites before asking about the progress of the Sir matter. Meanwhile, the Beastman elder shares a troubling rumor with Mako. He speaks of farms and ranches being attacked by a black wolf and asks if these incidents are occurring near the capital. He elaborates that the Adventurers Guild has issued a request for aid, but only low-ranked adventurers have taken the job, indicating that the true danger is being underestimated. Her interest piqued. She asks the elder to provide more details. Later that night, with the twin boys fast asleep, she prepares to depart with Intia, determined to look into the matter herself. Inside a bustling establishment, Mako stands with her companion, the great white wolf Intia. An older man with a beard questions who she is, and she introduces herself, explaining that Intia is her companion. The man seems to ponder this, wondering if a man's strength could be doubled if he were to borrow the power of a beast like that. She continues the conversation, explaining that she's heard a troubling story about a swarm of black insects attacking a farm. Mako wonders aloud if it could be related to wild animals on the cursed land, speculating that even without seeing it firsthand, she might be able to do something to help. Hearing her willingness to investigate, the restaurant owner offers to speak with the ranch owner on her behalf. Intia looks on, tilting its head. The older man agrees, explaining that since he does business with the local farmers and ranchers, her assistance would be a great help to him as well. He unfolds a map, pointing her in the right direction. As she walks away with Intia, Mako muses on why a guardian deity would be helping her. She suspects this is more than a simple case of wild animals and realizes that solving the problem could be good for her shop's reputation. Spotting 3 figures in the distance, she calls out for them to wait. The figures turn out to be Oga and 2 other wolf beastmen, Ram and Bagos. Oga declares that he is coming along. When Mako asks what they are doing, he explains that they also heard about the Black Swarm and want to help, viewing it as an opportunity to assist her in her shop. The others enthusiastically agree, and the group decides to proceed together. She accepts their offer of assistance for the night. Under a starry sky, the newly formed party makes its way toward the affected area, with Mako recalling a quiet ranch she had passed on her way into town. Their arrival at the ranch is met with surprise. An older man wearing glasses opens his door, holding a lantern, taken aback to see visitors at this hour. Mako introduces herself and her companions, explaining that they were sent from town. The ranch owner looks overwhelmed by the sight of the large wolf and beastmen. Mako begins to ask about Intia's role, but then pauses, realizing the term familiar might not be understood here. She asks the man if he even knows what a familiar is. He admits he has no idea what she's talking about, but suggests she see the sight first. As Mako asks what happened, her eyes fall upon the ground, which is covered in large, unsettling tracks. The ranch owner explained that one night, a pack of black wolves simply appeared, leaving destruction in their wake. He elaborated that the creatures had been attacking ranches and farms in the area, devouring crops and livestock. The guardian wolf, Intia, growled softly, noting that a faint scent still lingered. He went on to say that they had tried hiring adventurers, but the wolves were too numerous and powerful for even high-ranking mercenaries to handle. With his arms crossed, Mako listened as he explained that their only option was to pool their money for a top-tier adventurer, a prospect he admitted was difficult. She asked when the wolves typically attack, and the ranch owner confirmed they come late at night, when the livestock are quiet. Seeing they had some time, Mako turned to her allies and declared that they should begin their preparations immediately. As the sun set and a full moon rose, the ranch fell silent under a starry sky. From the crest of a nearby hill, Mako and her allies watched over the ranch, waiting. Suddenly, a commotion from the barn alerted them. Mako peered out, her eyes widening as she spotted the approaching threat, the black wolves. A massive swarm of the shadowy creatures poured over the hill, their glowing eyes fixed on the ranch as they charged forward with unnatural speed. The black wolves slammed into the ranch's fence, but the beastmen held their ground, ready for the fight. Mako, observing the scene, noticed something strange about the attacker's strength. Intia sensed it too, identifying the source of their power, a single leader. Following Intia's gaze, they saw it. A large, menacing black wolf perched on a distant hill, silhouetted against the full moon. The guardian wolf growled, identifying the creature from Mako as the Oyatama, the boss. With the battle lines drawn, Oga grips a pitchfork and issues orders to Ram and Bagos to intercept the other wolves, declaring he will handle things here. His gaze fixes on the distant black wolf leader, questioning if the beast intends to flee. Beside him, Mako gives a sharp command to the guardian wolf. Go, Intia. The great wolf surges forward with Mako on his back, acknowledging her command as they race across the plains. She marvels at the black wolf leader's incredible speed. Even as the guardian wolf runs at full tilt, the dark beast stays just ahead, its powerful legs churning. Realizing the chase might be a signal to the rest of the pack, she shouts a command, accepting the challenge. Leave it to me. The dark beast abruptly halts its flight and spins to face them. A violent crackle of dark energy erupts as it clashes head-on with the guardian wolf, forcing Mako to cry out in surprise. The force of the impact throws her to the ground. Shaken, she looks up as the guardian wolf stands over her protectively, growling at their foe and calling her name with concern. The creature stands before them, its black fur bristling with arcs of dark, lightning-like energy. Its maw hangs open in a vicious snarl, revealing a startling truth. This beast uses magic. A crackling barrier of electricity erupts from the ground, separating the wolf packs. The beastman leader, Oga, recoils in shock, snarling at the unexpected obstacle. Nearby, Mako expresses her relief, glad that her defensive measure was completed in time. From atop the great white wolf, Intia, she addresses the massive black wolf, Oyatama, asking what he did to the human. She explains that the barrier is magic and that she is with him. Oga listens, realizing that this magic is the reason he can understand her words. He turns his furious gaze upon her, demanding to know if she has come to drive them away and questioning why she would help such foolish humans. Mako meets his gaze evenly, stating that the outcome will depend entirely on his actions. Her attention then shifts back to the imposing black wolf. She asks where they came from and why they are attacking the ranch. In response, Oyatama declares that he is a descendant of the divine wolf. Mako internally scoffs at the overly dramatic title, but before she can respond, Oyatama lunges forward, proclaiming that they are not worthy of receiving punishment from him. As if on cue, Oga rears up against the full moon, howling that they must bite down on their own weakness. Mako pleads with him to stop the theatrics, but it's too late. Oyatama closes the distance in an instant, sinking his fangs into Oga's neck. Mako watches, horrified at her delayed reaction. In response, she cries out to Intia, directing him forward. With a powerful roar, the great white wolf charges, shattering the electric fence he had been standing behind moments before. He carries her to Oga's side, where she kneels and apologizes for getting him hurt. The injured wolf tells her not to worry about it. Mako's expression hardens as she looks at Oyatama, vowing that she will make him pay for daring to claim the title of Divine Wolf's descendant without permission. An idea suddenly strikes her. She realizes she needs to form a pact with something. As she considers this, she also notices that her skills seem to have increased. She summons her status screen, pondering if skills like dialogue or soil survey could possibly be useful in this situation. Her eyes then land on another skill listed, Tame. A plan begins to form. She stares at the list her new skill has produced, a manifest of beings she can now communicate with. At the top is Intia, level 23, followed by several boars. A sudden understanding dawns on her. Turning to the great wolf, she explains that she has confirmed a new ability, one that allows her to understand animals. Intia is taken aback, questioning if this means she can use magic. Mako confesses that she has no idea how to use magic and has never even considered it before. As they speak, Oyatama and his pack observe them from a distance. She then proposes a new idea. Perhaps she can use her power to move Intia's magic for him. The guardian wolf agrees, seeing no other choice. With a great roar, he declares his understanding, feeling a surge of magical energy gathering within his body. He asks if she is certain, and she confirms her resolve. With that, she climbs onto his back as he prepares to move. Across the field, Oyatama watches their preparations, a low growl rumbling in his chest. The black wolf leader scoffs, admitting he had underestimated them. In response, Intia bares his teeth, roaring that Oyatama is a mere pretender, a false idol. He proclaims that as a true descendant of the divine, he will be the one to properly educate him. Enraged by the insult, Oyatama bellows an order to his pack, destroy them. The smaller black wolves surge forward, a tide of dark fur and snapping jaws. As the pack closes in, Mako cries out his name. The great white wolf answers, and together they unleash the stored energy, roaring for his magic to fly. A blinding flash of light erupts from their position, blasting the charging wolves backward with concussive force. From the fence line, Oyatama watches the chaos, wondering aloud if it was some kind of explosion. The blast leaves the smaller wolves scattered and disoriented, whimpering as they struggle to rise from the ground. Standing proudly amidst the aftermath, Intia howls that his divine majesty is preserved before his foes. Clinging tightly to his fur, Mako can only exclaim that he is dazzlingly bright. The blinding light subsides, leaving Oyatama's pack disoriented. One of his wolves cries out, asking where the attack originated. Oyatama curses, his vision still blurred. He growls that blinding them at this juncture was a reckless mistake. His senses sharpen as a voice calls out, directing his attention. Snarling, Oyatama whips his head toward the sound. Before he can react, the massive white form of the guardian wolf descends upon him. A powerful paw strikes Oyatama's head with immense force, sending the black wolf reeling as he cries out in shock. The blow leaves him stunned and defeated on the ground. All aggression drains from Oyatama as he lets out a faint, pathetic whimper. The large black wolf, Oyatama, struggles against unseen bonds, his paws tied. He growls in frustration, wondering what is happening and why his body won't move. His smaller pack mates cry out to their boss, calling the human responsible despicable. As his pack remains subdued, the great white wolf, Intia, speaks with authority. He commands them to bow their heads and cease their foolish resistance, advising Oyatama to accept his defeat. A young woman then approaches the defeated wolf leader. She asks what he demands of them. Oyatama retorts that he has no name to give to one who has inherited the blood of the divine wolf, but she calmly persists, asking for his name. He tells her he has no proper name and that she can call him whatever she wishes. With a moment's thought, she suggests Kuro-chan. The suggestion shocks his subordinate, but Oyatama seems to consider it. The woman internally reflects that this wolf, who calls himself the Black Star of Calamity, is rather dramatic. She then questions if Kuro-chan is truly a descendant of the divine wolf, noting that his status simply reads Black Wolf. The great white wolf looms behind her, as Oyatama fiercely insists that he is a noble descendant because a god told him so. His pack mate shouts in agreement, denying they are different. Intia confronts him directly, stating that as a descendant of the divine wolf, he should be destroying wicked humans alongside his brethren. The white wolf notes that Oyatama has acquired a foul sin. In response, Oyatama explains that his pack was driven from their land by humans. Believing their god permitted it, they came seeking revenge. The woman realizes this must be their objective, and the wolf leader confirms it with a low growl. He elaborates that humans are gathering at the capital for an attack, and his pack's first move was to destroy the surrounding farms to incite terror. He reveals the ones who stole their land were the Black Silver Knight and a noblewoman, whom the woman recognizes as Auntie Mishka. Hearing this, she counters his plan. She informs him that if the princess is defeated, it won't be by her power alone. Another prince is already working to reclaim the stolen lands, so there's no need for the wolves to take it from her. The news seems to surprise Intia. While Oyatama listens intently, she offers a deal. If he changes his mind about taking revenge on the humans who stole his land, she will release him and his pack. She introduces herself as Mako. After a moment, Oyatama agrees, stating he has no will to resist further and will obey. Mako is taken aback by his quick compliance. She stood under the full moon, the guardian wolf at her side. He confirmed her thoughts, stating that the voice of the Black Wolf leader was sincere. She quietly agreed. Following this agreement, the Black Wolf leader turned to his pack. He commanded them to cease their attack, announcing that their fight was over. His command brought immediate relief. Mako announced her safe return to the group, who greeted her with gratitude. Ram and Bagos thanked her profusely, while the ranch owner, visibly shaken, expressed his immense relief, admitting she was far more dependable than he had imagined. He then questioned the nature of her power, asking if it could not only create animals, but also force them into submission. With a confident smile, she corrected his assumption, explaining that it wasn't about subjugation, but rather an agreement based on mutual terms. Together, they surveyed the vast plains, now covered by the enormous pack of black wolves. The ranch owner marveled at their numbers as Mako contemplated her next move. The ranch owner mused aloud that having such a large pack as guards would surely deter other wild beasts. His words sparked an idea in Mako, and she suddenly exclaimed that she knew what to do before turning to address the entire pack. She stood before the imposing black wolf leader, arms spread wide, and announced that she had a request for them all. Her proposal was simple. She asked them to guard the local ranches, and in exchange, she would ensure they were fed. The pack seemed to accept the terms with enthusiasm, playfully swarming the startled ranch owner. She then spoke privately with their leader, explaining that she couldn't bring them all to the capital until they had earned trust. He grumbled in frustration, lamenting the idea of becoming a human's guard dog when his true desire was to become her knight. As he clenched his fist, the guardian wolf stepped in, firmly stating that Mako's protection was his responsibility. The two great wolves faced off, growling with rising hostility. The black wolf leader angrily demanded to know what he meant by that, forcing Mako to shout at them both to stop their squabbling. In the city streets, Maru and Mira come to an abrupt halt, their faces masks of pure shock. Their alarm is due to Mako's sudden disappearance. They cry out, wondering where she went the day before, calling it cruel to be left behind. Inside a restaurant, Mako apologizes to them as the owner arrives with a platter of food, sternly asking the assembled beastmen if they have anywhere else to be. He directs his comments to the wolves at the table. The owner remarks that while their personalities are awful, their cooking skills are quite good. The wolves seated, Ram, Bagos, the guardian wolf, and the black wolf leader, agree that the food is delicious, even if the cook has a bad attitude. Annoyed, the owner retorts that he is only serving them as a courtesy. His irritation mounts as he declares that this is the capital's finest establishment. Mako, however, interrupts to thank him for permitting the animals inside. The owner, flustered, explains that he only allowed it because their reputation in the capital has been improving, leaving him no grounds to refuse service. Her presence and that of her companions has drawn the attention of other patrons. A group of adventurers discusses the rumors, wondering how she resolved the wolf pack incident without magic, speculating she must be from a high-ranking family. One of them approaches her directly, asking if it's true that she was the one who defeated the pack. He smiles warmly, thanking her on behalf of all the adventurers who were struggling with the problem. Nearby, a more seasoned adventurer scoffs, muttering that the grateful young man is still just a rookie. The older adventurer questions why people who came to open a shop are now protecting ranches. The younger one dismisses the concern, stating that their help is greatly appreciated regardless. Mako smiles, explaining that while not everyone is on board with the arrangement, it's a positive step. In a burst of gratitude, the armored adventurer takes her hand, his earnestness catching her by surprise. Several days later, Ram and Bagos stand on a city street, gazing up at a building with hopeful anticipation. Before them stands their own establishment, finally complete. The two wolf beastmen embrace, cheering their success. Bagos excitedly tells Mako that the interior is also finished and that with a certain method, they can erase what they've borrowed. He then asks for her help. She brushed off his concern, insisting she was used to it. Garai watched her work, warning that she was overdoing it and that it was dangerous, just as it had been the night before. Their conversation was joined by Frisia, who thanked Garai for watching over her and fulfilling her wish. She expressed her delight with the new shop, saying it was as wonderful as the one her parents had made. Garai told Mako he had trusted her to succeed. Mako noted that Frisia was selling goods from a distant village and that it was enjoyable to see which items received good reviews. Garai added that word of Mako's activities was spreading through the city, that she was helping people for free. She considered his words, thinking that it sounded like she was being treated as a hero of justice. Mako quickly dismissed the notion, clarifying to herself that she was no hero and had no intention of being one. If people expected that of her, she mused, then it wasn't true justice. Suddenly, a loud, disruptive noise shattered the peace. Both she and Garai turned in surprise, Garai calling out her name in question. The source of the commotion was a young noblewoman, who looked around with a critical eye and remarked that the establishment was, surprisingly, a proper shop. She then turned her sharp gaze on Mako, demanding to know what she wanted. Annoyed, the noblewoman asked if Mako truly didn't know who she was, pointing out that the Vibor family's commercial rivals had just opened a new store nearby. She introduced herself with a flourish as Layla Grossum, the young lady of the family that handled the country's greengrocers. She commanded Mako to remember her face, calling it a great honor for a commoner. Mako was left speechless. Layla then announced that she had come to deliver a declaration of war. She continued, explaining that her family's greengrocer would be studying its rival. As the first step in this endeavor, she declared her intention to crush the Vibor family's new store. Layla pointed accusingly at Mako, exclaiming that she hadn't expected them to be the ones to show up. Mako could only stammer in confusion as the beastmen behind her watched, equally perplexed. Layla seemed to realize Mako's ignorance, thinking to herself that Mako was supposed to be acting in the Vibor family's stead to defeat her. She scoffed at what she perceived as a half-baked plan, declaring that she would compete fiercely against the other stores. She then told Mako to work hard. Bowing slightly, Mako thanked her for the consideration and promised to do her best. As Layla walked away, Oga turned to the others, asking what that was all about. Garai simply remarked that the capital was truly full of all sorts of people. Layla Grossum points accusingly, her voice ringing out as she vows to demonstrate just how poorly their backwater products will sell. Far from being intimidated, Mako's face flushes with a determined excitement. She clenches her fists, finding this haughty, confrontational attitude strangely motivating. Behind her, the guardian wolf observes that Mako is surprisingly simple-minded. Oga looks on in amusement while Mira quietly agrees. A massive basket overflows with a vibrant harvest of vegetables and fruits. Mako arrives, her face alight with excitement, as Beowulf and other wolves look on eagerly. She exclaims that the produce is magnificent, attributing its impressive size and quality to the liquid fertilizer she developed. She recalls that the seedlings were a gift from an old man at the Vibor estate and that everyone's hard work has paid off splendidly. With the harvest secured, Mako turns her attention to preparing the storefront. She presents a newly crafted, jet-black board to Oga, asking if it will suffice. He gives her a firm thumbs up, declaring it perfect. Nearby, Maru and Mira marvel at the unusual blackboard, wondering aloud if she had it all along. Mako smiles, confirming it's for them to see, and begins to write on its surface. She then explains the board's function to the wide-eyed children. It's coated with a special paint, she tells them, allowing one to write with chalk and then erase it. She adds that chalk itself is made from limestone. As she draws a picture of a tomato, she clarifies that the board will be used to display information for customers, like the day's recommended items. The children, delighted by the disappearing writing, ask to try it again, but Mako tells them she has another task for them. As Oga looks on, she reflects internally that with only 3 days until the grand opening, her knowledge and ideas are in full operation. Later, Mako and the wolf beastmen take a break at a local eatery. She sits at a table with Oga, Bagos, and Ram, who are enjoying a meal. Across the room, the restaurant's owner tends to other patrons, including the disgruntled young man and his companion. As they sit, she considers the placement of her news sign, noting that it won't obstruct the flow of traffic. Just then, the restaurant owner calls out to her, catching her attention as Oga listens thoughtfully. The owner approaches their table with a troubled expression. He explains that some villagers have been trying to sell their low-quality goods at exorbitant prices. He adds that there are also rumors about the wolf packs near the capital causing trouble, which he suspects is a self-orchestrated plot to manipulate the market. Oga's ear twitches, a sign that he is listening with sharp intensity. He continues, his voice filled with concern, mentioning that some people have seen large wolves carrying heavy loads. He asks if it's true, looking disappointed at the thought that he might not be able to do business with the beastmen in the capital after all. Hearing this, Oga's expression hardens. He realizes aloud that this was their goal all along, calling them cunning. Mako, looking weary, feels the sting of betrayal, thinking how painful it is after she had started to trust them. A new doubt enters her mind. Why is Oga, a beastman, with a human like her? Could he be the Oyatama, the leader they spoke of? She confronted the beastman leader, Oga, demanding to know if the rumors were a deliberate plot. She reflected that his previous actions had seemed merely foolish, but this felt malicious. Oga simply growled, telling her to leave it be. With a final, troubled thought, she turned to depart. As she made for the exit, the restaurant owner stopped her, declaring her business concluded and telling her to leave. This prompted another customer to interject, questioning if the owner was now policing conversations. The owner retorted that the man's presence was making other patrons uncomfortable. The disgruntled customer whirled around, shouting at the owner and accusing him of trying to protect the beastman. In response, both the restaurant owner and a nearby ranch owner roared back. The restaurant owner declared that the wolf beastmen were his trusted partners, while the rancher added that they were grateful for the wolves' protection over their lands, calling them magnificent. The owner ordered the man to leave, stating he wouldn't be swayed by baseless rumors. He then apologized to Mako for the disturbance, advising her not to worry. As the defeated customer departed, Mako thanked the owner and his chef, her expression thoughtful. Later, back at her own establishment, the nobleman Aixa laughed, praising her spirit. In the background, Oga drank heavily while the cat-like twins played on the floor. Mako asked Aixa if the large shipment was all right, but he reassured her before revealing he had a favor to ask. His request delighted her. Aixa wanted to help increase the variety of her products before the grand opening, giving her access to all sorts of goods from the royal capital. She beamed, thanking him profusely. To that end, Mako tasked Garai with handling security for their new market stall, a precaution against potential trouble. She also consulted with Swallow about the ongoing rumors. Their preparations were underway in a bustling city square. While exploring the capital's shops with Aixa and Garai, she found herself in an apothecary. Mako identified a scent as perfume oil, which Aixa noted was unusual outside of the entertainment district. Ignoring Garai's comment that they didn't sell produce, Mako's eyes lit up as she asked the shopkeeper if they had any transparent oil. The merchant promptly presented a crate filled with bottles of the clear liquid. Mako gave a satisfied thumbs up. As Aixa questioned if she could carry it, and Garai admitted he couldn't, the merchant assured them it was no problem. She thoughtfully examines a row of simple glass cups, her mind clearly working on a new idea. As she considers the options, Prince Aixa asks if she has found anything suitable. Garai observes her focus and suggests that rather than searching for a pre-existing item, it might be better to commission a skilled artisan to create exactly what she needs. Prince Aixa agrees, noting that while he would prefer more delicate glasswork, simpler, practical items are also fine. Seizing the idea, Mako turns to the shopkeeper and asks if there are any glass artisans in the capital. The shopkeeper, startled by the direct question, confirms that there are, though she seems hesitant. The shopkeeper elaborates, explaining that a rather famous artist who works with glass has an atelier on the outskirts of the residential district. Overjoyed by this news, Mako thrusts a map towards the woman and begs her to point out the location. Flustered but willing, the shopkeeper agrees. With a knowing smile, she adds a word of caution, explaining that the artist is a bit peculiar and might be surprising. Mako listens intently, her earlier excitement tempered by this new information. Having gathered what they needed, the group exits the shop, with Garai and Mako carrying boxes of supplies. As Prince Aixa offers his thanks to the shopkeeper, his attention is suddenly caught by something down the street, causing him to wonder aloud what he has seen. On a bustling city street, a large crowd gathers. A young noblewoman, Layla Grossum, triumphantly holds up a cut of meat, announcing the opening of her new shop, which stands directly opposite another. Nearby, Mako, accompanied by Aixa and Garai, observes the scene, noting the sheer size of the crowd makes it difficult to see inside. She announces to the crowd that she has decided to sell off their non-perishable goods, highlighting the high-grade fruits and rare crops that are priced 2 to 3 times higher than normal. Mako realizes Layla is holding a high-end sale. With a frustrated sigh, Layla claps her hands together, unleashing a burst of magical energy that startles Mako. The resulting wave of cool air, sparkling with magical motes, washes over the assembled crowd, providing immediate relief from the heat. The people murmur in appreciation of the refreshing breeze. Layla explains that since her mother is from a noble family, she can use magic to generate cold air, though she admits her own magical power is limited. In the background, Aixa comments to Garai that it is an interesting application of magic. Having made her point, Layla turns her attention back to Mako, asking if she's the one selling oil nearby. She declares their rivalry, stating she has no intention of losing. Mako calmly accepts the challenge, agreeing that they should both give it their all for it to be a worthwhile experience. With the terms of their rivalry set, Mako and Aixa walk away. He asks for her assessment of Layla's strategy. Mako considers it, concluding that while the strategy isn't bad, Layla should have given more thought to her pricing. She elaborates on her point, explaining that it's more effective to discount everyday items alongside luxury goods to attract more customers, which in turn boosts future sales. Aixa takes in her business acumen as they, along with Garai, arrive at a two-story building in another part of the city. Looking up at the building, Mako confirms from a map that they've reached their destination. Aixa observes that it looks like a normal house, and Garai adds that there's no sign of anyone. Just then, the door bursts open and a young woman with short, light hair energetically introduces herself as the artist, Honda Mako. The original Mako is struck with disbelief. The original Mako freezes, utterly stunned by this coincidence. She briefly wonders if the girl is just a house-sitter before turning an alarm and shouting Aixa's name. He, however, remains perfectly composed, a slight smile on his face. He points to the open door, suggesting that since it's an artist atelier, their works must be on display, so it should be fine to enter. He encourages a flustered Mako to tell the artist he'd love to see her work, much to her dismay. He turns to Mako, who stands hesitantly at the open doorway, and asks if she's all right with simply walking in. She remains silent, a bead of sweat tracing its way down her temple. Gathering her courage, she peeks through the curtain, timidly announcing her presence. Her eyes immediately fall upon a collection of dazzling, crystal-like glass ornaments hanging near a large jar. Stepping fully inside, Mako is left breathless. The atelier is a wonderland of exquisite glassware, with ornate lamps, delicate globes, and intricate decorations filling every available space. She can only whisper a single word, beautiful. As she stands in awe, Aixa and Garai enter behind her. Aixa surveys the room with an appreciative eye, remarking that the artist of this atelier possesses considerable skill. Garai quietly agrees. He continues to admire the craftsmanship, while Mako realizes that the artist must have created the wind chimes herself, wondering about the post-processing techniques used. Aixa finds it odd that there is no place to fire glass, a sentiment Garai shares. Their discussion is interrupted by an older man demanding to know their business. Aixa politely states they have come to see the atelier's artist. The man, however, seems unimpressed, grumbling that he has no business with them and that their timing is poor. Mako asks if he is the owner. He clarifies that he is not, then explains that, unfortunately, the person they seek is not present. She left several days ago. The man continues, revealing that the artist is registered with the Adventurers Guild and likely took on a subcontracted mission due to financial hardship. He tells them to wait patiently for her return and begins to close the door, prompting Garai to ask Mako for her decision. Her expression hardens with resolve. She realizes this artist is absolutely essential for her shop. With no time to waste, she decides to go to the Adventurers Guild to gather information immediately. At the grand stone building of the Adventurers Guild, a receptionist with neatly tied back hair and glasses offers a professional welcome. "Welcome to the Adventurers Guild," she says. "What is your business today?" She addresses the group at her counter, confirming that a glass artist had indeed come to the guild. The receptionist explains that the artist, a woman named Delphi, accepted a mission and departed, but has not yet returned. Mako steps forward, explaining their urgent need to find her. She asks about the specifics of the mission Delphi undertook. The receptionist clarifies it was a low-difficulty task, to explore a cave and verify rumors of a hidden treasure. However, her expression turns grim as she continues. Delphi's return is now overdue. And worse, several other adventurers who joined the same mission have also failed to come back. Mako's concern deepens at the news. The receptionist confirms her unspoken fear, stating that the mission's difficulty has been re-evaluated and raised to B rank. The situation, she admits, is quite bad. Without hesitation, Mako asks if she can participate in the mission. The receptionist inquires if she is a registered adventurer. When Mako says no, she is told she must register first. The receptionist then explains the guild's ranking system, pointing to a chart. A new registration would place Mako at F rank, and adventurers can only accept missions up to 1 rank above their own. Since Delphi's mission is now B rank, it is impossible for her to take it. Mako is stunned. A nearby adventurer overhears and loudly interrupts, warning Mako not to get ahead of herself. He scolds her, saying that rookies who try to make a name for themselves by taking on high-rank missions often die young. The rules, he insists, exist for a reason. Aixa steps in to comfort Mako, suggesting that she doesn't need to become an adventurer. They can simply gather information and head to the location themselves. As he speaks, the receptionist watches them, thinking to herself that it was people like them who sent the artist out in the first place. Suddenly, another man's voice cuts through the tension. A confident adventurer extends a hand, asking how his rank would do. He proposes a solution. If the rules are the issue, they could simply join him. The receptionist recognizes him as Warushima. He introduces himself as Warushima, an A-rank adventurer known as the Great Swordsman. He explains a guild regulation. High-ranking adventurers are permitted to take lower-rank members on missions. He acknowledges that this rule, a relic from a time of manpower shortages, often causes trouble, but it is a rule nonetheless. The receptionist is taken aback, questioning if he is serious. He confirmed his intention to go, prompting an eager Mako to ask if he would truly help them. The disgruntled customer and Aixa immediately declared their own participation as well. The glasses woman, however, looked on with concern, unable to reconcile the idea of them leaving when other adventurers had not returned. The disgruntled customer then asked for clarification on who exactly would be joining the mission. With the decision made, the disgruntled customer slammed his hand on the guild counter, emphatically stating his intent to join. The receptionist, taking charge, began the official procedure to register Mako and the other three as adventurers for the mission. As they prepared, a young adventurer approached, recognizing Mako. He greeted her excitedly, mentioning they were both from the academy and introducing himself as a D-rank adventurer with the title Ranger. He expressed a strong desire to learn from her, much to her flustered surprise. Nearby, Warushima examined a map, noting that they needed to hurry as their destination was far. The disgruntled customer commented on Mako's impressive vitality. With the party now fully assembled, Warushima addressed them all, confirming their readiness. The young adventurer, brimming with energy, seized the moment and rallied the group with a loud cry. "Let's go!" he shouted, and the party responded as one, ready to embark on their mission. In a rugged, mountainous landscape, an adventuring party takes a break. As a stew simmers over a campfire, the dark-haired woman offers a bowl to Warushima, suggesting they rest. The young adventurer agrees, mentioning that their supply of dried meat and vegetables has run out. As he eats, Warushima remarks on how useful her ability is. Curious, he asks her what her title is, explaining that it should be listed on her status screen. She seems taken aback by the question, thinking to herself that she assumed everyone had magic and titles. Warushima observes her reaction, thoughtfully noting that she has only just become an adventurer before asking again about her title. He explains that titles are like special characteristics. He, being proficient with a greatsword, holds the title of Great Swordsman. He points out another adventurer, Akashi, whose skill with a bow for solo missions earned him the title of Ranger. He then suggests that if she's curious about her own, she should visit a guild appraiser, noting it is a useful service for adventurers. The young adventurer, having overheard their exchange, turns to the elegant nobleman with a look of utter shock, blurting out, "You're a prince?" The nobleman calmly confirms it, adding that it is not so unusual to find royalty among the ranks of adventurers. He shouts an apology for his ignorance, but the prince simply laughs, telling him not to worry. As the group settles, Warushima hands the flustered young man a cup of the warm stew. The dark-haired woman notes the high altitude and dropping temperature, suggesting they recover their strength with the food before facing their enemy. The thought triggers a brief, jarring memory of being in a shop where a woman with glasses sternly told her to get out. The scene shifts violently. The same party bursts through the doors of a guild hall, shouting for help. The young adventurer is grievously injured, supported by Warushima and the prince. They desperately call for a healer. The injured adventurer, barely conscious, mutters about the monster from their subjugation quest. The guild receptionist behind the counter identifies the creature with grim certainty, a demon. She explains that the targets of S-rank quests are often demons. More specifically, she reveals it was a demon from the Dragon's Nest, a super hazardous area. The dark-haired woman listens in shock, realizing the true gravity of the danger they had faced. Her thoughts still reeling from the revelation about their target, she listened as Warushima explained the nature of demons. He stated that they were malevolent beings whose true origins were unknown, though legends claimed they came from another world. He warned that they were cunning, using various creatures to prey on humans. The dark-haired woman quietly corrected him, noting that it wasn't only humans they hunted. Her comment was prompted by a sudden, chilling memory of a past declaration, that the gods, as agents of the divine, persecute humans. The implication of this statement in their current situation caused a flicker of disbelief to cross her face. The disturbing thought was cut short when Warushima suddenly threw up a hand, his voice sharp as he commanded everyone to halt. The party froze, peering into the oppressive darkness of the rocky canyon ahead. From that darkness, a figure descended, silhouetted against the full moon. The winged, horned being observed them from above, remarking to himself how interesting humans were to keep sending their companions to this place time and again. He descended closer, a menacing grin spreading across his face as he declared their futile struggles to be to his liking. The dark-haired woman recognized his wings with a start. The demon addressed the party, proclaiming that for those lured here, meeting him was the greatest honor they could receive and commanded them to prepare themselves. Without another word, the demon unleashed a powerful sonic blast from the air, the force of it slamming into the adventurers and kicking up a cloud of dust and rock. The force of the blast sent the young adventurer stumbling backward into the dark-haired woman. Seeing the danger, Urashima shouted a warning as a blade of energy sliced through the air toward them. His warning came just as the ground erupted where they had been standing. The party scattered, narrowly avoiding the attack. Urashima identified the assault as wind blades, his eyes fixed on the demon hovering calmly amidst the chaos. Urashima wasted no time, activating a skill called acceleration and launching himself forward at incredible speed. As he closed the distance, the young adventurer moved to flank their foe, believing he had found a blind spot from which to strike. Their coordinated assault was met not with panic, but with a wide, predatory grin. The demon extended a hand, formally introducing himself as Belquat, a horned duke of Beelzebub. With utter contempt, he questioned if mere humans truly thought they could defeat him. He identified himself as a subordinate of Beelzebub, the Winged Lord. The revelation struck Mako with force, her thoughts reeling as she tried to comprehend the gravity of their opponent's identity. Her concentration was broken by Ix's calm voice. He acknowledged that their foe was almost certainly a demon and that he was seeking her opinion on the matter. With a confident smile, he asked if she had a plan. At his words, Urashima also turned his focus to Mako, his sword gleaming. He eagerly asked if she had a strategy, declaring that he wanted to trust in her and respond accordingly. Behind them, Aixa voiced his assent. In a moonlit clearing, the dark-haired woman stands with the young adventurer and the elegant nobleman, facing a new threat. The winged demon, Belquat, hovers before them, contemptuously asking what the little girl wants. She looks up, a plan forming, and states that there is something she wishes to try. He sneers, questioning what she could possibly know on her own and promising to show her an interesting end. Nearby, the pointy-eared savior and Shotaro observe. Shotaro asks if they have a strategy for victory, but his companion simply states that he will provide aid if it becomes necessary. In response to his threat, the woman reveals a cylindrical metal can. With a look of intense focus, she aims it at the demon and shouts, "Insecticide," as she depresses the nozzle. A thick cloud of spray erupts from the can, engulfing the airborne demon. Caught completely by surprise, Belquat chokes and plummets from the sky as the woman and her stunned companions watch from below. He lands in a heap, twitching weakly. The woman looks at the can, relieved, confirming her theory. Knowing he was a subordinate of the demon lord Beelzebub, she had gambled on the possibility that he shared the weaknesses of a common fly. Belquat struggles to his feet, enraged that a being like himself could be brought down by a mere human. He warns that word of his defeat will immediately spread throughout the demon world, then dismisses her victory as fleeting, sneering that humans are nothing more than their playthings. After the confrontation, the woman sits alone on a rocky ledge, gazing out at the horizon in a moment of quiet contemplation. Rejoining her group, the young adventurer grabs her by the shoulders, demanding to know what just happened. He exclaims that even S-rank adventurers would have trouble with such a powerful demon. She brushes off his concern, announcing that her mission is to investigate the nearby cave and promptly heads toward it. She peers into the darkness, confirming that this must be the place. From within the cave, a voice is heard, and a man with dark hair and light streaks emerges into the light. He smiles, remarking that rescue has finally arrived. The man, Urashima, explains to the group that it was too dangerous for him to get out on his own. He mentions that he was saved by an artist who was also trapped. As he speaks, he casually tosses a small, carved figurine into a nearby fire. Seeing this, the woman's eyes widen in realization, and she asks if he might be the artist himself. She asks the swordsman for his name. With a wide, toothy grin, he dismisses her question, instead asking if she is some kind of artistic fan of his. He then proudly declares that the Delphoi Aegis belongs to him, laughing with immense self-satisfaction. As he boasts, the elegant nobleman consults a document, remarking that this man, Urashima, is indeed quite popular. Urashima continues, stating that if he had the funds, he would have used the guild to promote his art. The pointy-eared savior scoffs, accusing him of just making excuses for his situation. His grandstanding feels strangely familiar to the dark-haired woman, reminding her of his self-important proclamations of a masked hero or a heavenly emperor. Behind her, the blindfolded man holds up a sign with characters that seem to echo this sentiment of solitary supremacy. Unfazed, Urashima addresses them all as his fans. He declares that since they came all this way for him, he will show them something interesting, presenting a small, glowing orb held between his thumb and forefinger. He tosses the orb into the air, where it floats gently. The group watches in awe as it drifts toward the crystalline blockage at the cave's entrance. Urashima warns them not to touch it without his permission. The moment it makes contact, a massive explosion erupts, shattering the crystal barrier with concussive force. The party flinches back from the blast as Urashima proudly announces his artistic explosion. Stunned by the display, the dark-haired woman asks what that was. Urashima turns to her with a look of disbelief, questioning how one of his fans could not understand what she just witnessed. He gestures to the diamond-shaped markings on his cheek, telling her to look closely. The young adventurer guesses it might be a fire lizard, prompting the dark-haired woman to realize he means a salamander. Urashima confirms her answer is correct. He explains that the glass orb is a work of art containing the sealed flame of a salamander, which can exhibit various forms depending on the fire used. He reveals he came to this place seeking the flame of a creature called a tris, but was trapped before he could find it. The dark-haired woman, amazed, asks if he truly creates these items himself, and he confirms it with pride. He concludes that the idea to use the orb to escape was a clear inspiration that came to him. His demonstration complete, he turns his full attention to the dark-haired woman and asks for her name. She replies, Honda Mako. She was immediately confronted by Urashima's indignant outburst. He declared that he was disgusted by the thought of losing to her, but that her ideas, when given form by his artistic genius, would prove his own superiority. He then challenged her to have him create something. He then turned to Garai and the others, suggesting they all descend the mountain first. Garai agreed, adding that Mako should come as well, and she quietly consented. Later, after they had returned to an inn, Mako rested in bed. Urashima, meanwhile, remarked to another that he had been up all night discussing Del Poi with her, admitting that her ideas were surprisingly good and that she had an artist's sensibility. The next morning, as she slept, Garai informed Maru and Mira that he was heading to the Adventurers Guild to file a report. He instructed them to let Mako rest, offering a quiet apology to her sleeping form as the two catboys watched with concern. She stirred in her sleep, thinking it was still dark, but a sudden realization struck her. It was already evening. Her eyes shot open as she sat bolt upright in bed, a wave of panic washing over her. She immediately clasped her hands together, apologizing profusely to everyone for having completely overslept. Outside the inn, Oga, Bagos, Maru, and Mira had gathered, calling up to her window. Joining them, she explained her anxiety, having not seen them since the previous evening. Though Garai had explained the situation to her that morning, she had remained worried and apologized for keeping them waiting. Elsewhere, in a nearby workshop, Urashima stood waiting, his arms crossed and a fresh bandage on his cheek. He turned as Mako and her companions entered. He stated that he had been sitting there since morning, waiting for a proper discussion. Mako, surprised, asked if he had already created something, but he retorted that it hadn't even been a full day. With a flourish, he revealed a table covered in stunning, intricately crafted glassware. How's this? He challenged. The entire group gasped in awe. Mako was thrilled, declaring it was exactly as she had envisioned. The children marveled at the beautiful, unprecedented shapes, and Mako mused that this must be the result of her own artistic sensibilities resonating with his. She then met with Orchidea, who presented her with a small, ornate bottle. The Alron Queen explained that she had something she needed prepared, adding that it had been a while since she'd had a chance to act and was eager to contribute. As Mako accepted the task, Phrygia offered words of encouragement, while Inchia, the great white wolf, watched with a start. The great wolf then addressed Mako directly, acknowledging that if it was her wish, he would lend his strength to the cause. Mako smiled warmly, thanking him and telling him she was counting on his help. Having gathered her allies, she began delegating tasks. She addressed the assembled group, Oga, the cat twins Maru and Mira, Bagos, and Garai, giving each of them their instructions for the work ahead. With everyone assigned their roles, she gave a final, energetic command for them all to follow their instructions. She made a mental note for everyone to be sure to return to the inn to rest at night. With only 2 days remaining until the store's grand opening, the entire team threw themselves into the final push, working diligently on the building's exterior. On the day of the grand opening, Oga paces with agitation. He confronts Shotaro, demanding to know what Mako is thinking. He points out that it's already getting dark, and other shops are closing, questioning why they're waiting until such a late hour. Shotaro simply tells him to calm down, but Oga remains frustrated. Nearby, Mako rallies the assembled beastmen. She calls for their attention, reminding them that the opening day is crucial for their future and that they need to be fired up. She questions why they're just lazing about on such an important day. She flashes a confident smile, assuring them not to worry, as this is simply time for final adjustments. Her plan, she explains, was to rest during the day and perform one last check before nightfall. Oga, still skeptical, asks if she truly has a strategy for a nighttime opening. Mako confirms that she does, leaving the others to wonder. As dusk settles over the city, Mako stands on a rooftop with Urashima. She turns to him and asks if he is ready to proceed. He doesn't answer directly, instead picking up a thin rod and stating coolly that he still doesn't like her. Mako asks him why. With a determined look, Urashima explains it's because his own ideas are things she could never even conceive of. He holds up the rod, now with a small bead at its tip, and declares that this is precisely why he must act. He points the rod forward with a flourish, proclaiming that with his artistic skill, he will bring her artistic vision to life, just as the word suggests. He then carefully pours the contents of a test tube into a larger glass sphere. Holding the now glowing orb, he remarks on the perfect darkness of the evening sky. With a powerful shout, he launches the sphere into the air. Down below, the sudden streak of light and sound startles the beastmen inside the shop. Oga and the others look towards the window, wondering about the source of the commotion. The sphere erupts in a brilliant explosion of light, filling the night sky with a massive firework. The beastmen stare in utter amazement. Oga can only manage to say how incredible it is, while Maru and Mira, held safely by Ram, whisper that it's beautiful. The explosions of light paint the night sky in dazzling displays. Orchidea, captivated, whispers how beautiful it is. Little Frisia agrees, comparing the brilliant bursts to flowers of the night. The spectacle captures the attention of the entire city, drawing people into the streets to gaze at the sky in wonder. From a balcony overlooking the pet shop, the dark-haired woman calls down to the crowd below, asking what is happening and shouting for everyone's attention, specifically for Mako. She throws the doors wide open, her voice ringing out with an announcement. She calls for them to open the doors, proclaiming the grand opening of the Abacus Village specialty store. Below, a large and eager crowd, drawn by the spectacle, stands ready at the entrance. Under a night sky lit by fireworks, Mako and Oga welcome a throng of customers into their brightly lit, bustling new shop, which is filled with goods from the village. Beside her, Maru nervously notes the sheer number of people arriving. Mako reassures the young boy, telling him not to worry and to just interact with them normally, reminding him of all the practice they did. Elsewhere in the shop, a group of young women, including Layla Grossum, admire the store's cute interior. One of them points out an item that catches her interest. Layla observes that the timing attracts many young customers who are sure to like their new products. Mako approaches them, offering a taste of a specialty from Aptus Village. She gives a confident thumbs up and shouts the command to begin. Oga snaps to attention and moves forward with a tray of sliced tomatoes, offering the customers a free sample and encouraging them to try it. The women are surprised by the offer. The customers accept, and their surprise quickly turns to delight. They exclaim how delicious the tomatoes are, with Layla remarking that they remain an exquisite product even after having bought some of the market previously. Another woman's attention is drawn to a decorative bottle, and she asks what it is. In another corner of the store, Orchidea presents a product called Herbarium. She explains to a group of interested women that it contains dried flowers cultivated in the village, preserved in oil. Holding up a bottle, she notes that its pleasant fragrance can soothe the fatigue of a long day's work, and that the flowers themselves have a calming effect, inviting them to sample other varieties. The enthusiasm is infectious. A young adventurer excitedly approaches Mako with a menu, declaring he'll order everything on it. Mako mistakes him for Aixa, but he clarifies his identity. He marvels at the menu, packed with specialties from the village, and the two share a moment of mutual appreciation as the lively evening continues outside. The shop's cafe section is also a hit. A waiter presents two tall, elegant glasses, explaining that they are sorbet and ice cream sodas made with fruit from Aptus Village. The noble women at the table are captivated, remarking on the beauty of the drinks and the handsome waiter. Upon tasting them, they are amazed by the delicious and novel flavor. Amidst the joyful chaos, Mako carries a fresh crate of tomatoes, smiling to herself as she anticipates a long night ahead. Her brief respite is cut short when Oga calls out that the orange shelf is empty, while a tiny, overwhelmed Maru cries for help from the floor. The successful night was not a one-time event. Days later, Layla and her friends return to the counter, eagerly placing orders with Oga, who thanks them for their patronage. The shop has clearly found a loyal customer base. While he and the other staff manage the bustling shop, the lively atmosphere is shattered by the sudden arrival of Layla Grossum. She storms in, holding a large cut of meat, her face a mask of fury as she shouts for Mako, accusing her of ruining her business. Nearby, Oga suggests they take the conversation to the back room to avoid disturbing the customers. She then does the unexpected, bowing deeply before a completely stunned Mako. With great formality, Layla makes a shocking request, to be accepted as Mako's apprentice. The noblewoman had been observing Mako's shop for days since its opening. She saw the atmosphere, the products, and realized there was a great deal she needed to learn about customer attraction and product development. She explains her desire to see Mako's work up close, admitting that her own store pales in comparison. Layla reveals she has already resigned from her position in her family's business after consulting her father. Her goal is to train under Mako so that she can one day proudly take over the family enterprise. She earnestly pleads for Mako to accept her. Mako hesitates, feeling that she can't take credit. She believes her success is only due to her unique, almost cheat-like skills and products, and feels she has nothing to teach. Her thoughts are cut short as the merchant lord, Layla's father, bursts through the door. He calls out to Mako, noting that her break is perfectly timed for his arrival. He explains to a bewildered Mako that someone already wants to work at her shop, despite it only being open for a few days. He confirms that the shop's impressive performance and service have greatly influenced his daughter. The lord continues, acknowledging that beastmen are typically shunned in the capital and admitting that he himself has complained about them. Yet, in Mako's shop, he sees everyone working together harmoniously. He declares her business plan a good one, pleased that his daughter recognized its value. To that end, he makes a stunning offer. He will provide his full support for personnel training and management, free of charge, as an advance payment for future advice. He even proposes to share the profits, leaving Mako utterly speechless. She is immediately seized by her large beastman companions. Ram grins, declaring it an excellent idea, while Bagos firmly agrees, stating that Mako has been working far too hard. Before she can process their enthusiasm, Layla calls out to her from across the street. The merchant lord beckons her over, explaining that as the head of the Vibrer house, he has something important to discuss with her. The results of that discussion quickly become apparent. Inside the bustling shop, Mira proudly shows off his new uniform, a smart vest and shirt, excitedly announcing that he received one as well. His joy is a small part of a larger transformation. The shop has become a vibrant gathering place where people of all statuses and races can come together to eat, drink, and socialize, free from prejudice. Mako stands at the center of it all, her heart full as she watches her dream become a reality. She looks upon the scene, tears of joy welling in her eyes. This lively, harmonious community is the grand culmination of all her efforts, the ultimate achievement for the former home center manager, Honda Mako. A thought suddenly strikes her. With the Viboer family now helping to manage the store, she could finally take a vacation. She could even return home to Abitok's village for a while. As if summoned by her thoughts, Aixa appears at her side. He asks if she is considering a vacation, and if so, suggests she go with him. He explains that he has a fine resort and a private villa along the coast. His direct invitation flusters her. She begins to protest, reminding him of his own work, but Aixa's gaze is intense and unwavering. He insists that if she needs a rest, then he does as well, and firmly tells her to leave all the arrangements to him. His determination sparks an idea, and a brilliant smile lights up her face. A seaside barbecue. All sorts of fun things they could do together. She realizes it's a wonderful thought, a chance for everyone to have a great time.